night, Barbados. Good night, Caribbean. Good night, the world. I'm holding in my hand the flag of Barbados. The flag of Barbados. This is what I'm holding in my hand, and you would have just heard the national anthem of Barbados, a beautiful anthem. And I just want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the Marcia Week Show, to say a pleasant good night to you and welcome to the Marcia Week Show. To everyone who's joining us, welcome, welcome. Tonight, we are going to go straight into our discussions just after, of course, I've got to welcome you all and greet you all properly. But tonight, we're asking the question, can the citizens trust this government, this present government, with wiretapping powers? So we're going to discuss that tonight. And what a fitting way to start tonight with the national anthem of Barbados and showcasing the flag of Barbados. Very, very important, because I tell you, I believe that in the same way, Lucinda, that we hit the streets concerning the cybercrime bill, it's going to be very, very important for us to do the same thing with this bill. Now, we're calling it for short wiretapping bill. We understand, and we're going to, when we discuss, you'll know a little further, why we're saying wiretapping, so that everybody is able to understand what we're saying. We do know that the bill itself, it's not a color wiretapping bill, but so that you can understand, we can communicate clearly to you what this bill is about. We are continuing to label it that, okay? But it's a very serious thing. Monica Ince, good night, and then Teroni Hall, good night. Esther Blue, good night. Bajan Boy, good night. I'm happy that you've joined. Good to see you, Queen D. Very, very good to see you. Judy Gilks, good evening. Good to see you. Vernon Garnes, good to see you. Radical Brian, good to see you. Marcia, oh, what a wonderful evening it is. Mystic Angel, this is an amazing evening. And I'm saying to you, Mystic Angel, welcome to the Marcia Week Show. And we always ask you to do something. What is that? We ask you to like and share, and that's very important to us, all of us at this time, because especially as it has to do with this particular bill, we are going to need you to like and share it in your WhatsApp groups. Angela Burke and Jeffrey Sobers. Hello, can you hear me, guys? Margaret Pollard, Lori Bob, Marva Hunt, Cherry Berry, good night. Marcia Miller, how are you? Terrence, how are you doing? Pedro, greetings, Pedro. Did you like and share? Sir Alfred Benjamin, I feel like I've missed you for a little time. You know what? It feels like I've missed you for a while. It's good to have you back. Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Just making sure this phone is on mute. ADG, good evening. Chantel Williams, good evening. Beverly Prescott. Sharon Innes, how are you? Chantel is saying the first thing that I do is to like and share. Aaron Hunt, listen, we are going down the road. We're starting our discussion this evening at 7:15. Now, tonight's program, Pedro, is going to be in two parts. So from 7:15 to 8:15, an entire hour, we're going to have Rose Carvin is going to be in the house. Also, Maxine McLean and Glenn Murray. They're all going to be here with us, and we're going to do 1 hour of discussion around this bill. And in particular, we are going to look at that article that was written by Wade Gibbons. This is an article put out on social media. And I tell you something, one of the things that that happened when we all worked on the cybercrime bill is that it wasn't one person who did it. It wasn't, it was a number of people. And we came together. No, the great thing about this, I don't think I've ever met Wade Gibbons. But I read the article, and everybody's been reading that article, and they've sent it to me. And I thought that it would be quite in place for us to discuss it tonight, because the opposition, remember, the opposition is not just the show. The opposition is all of Barbados, you see. And so we are going to take the time tonight to look at what Wade Gibbons, what he's written, and the panelists. I mean, they've read it, and we're going to have a discussion with it, of course, taking into consideration some of your comments, etc. But we want to really pull it apart, because I've recognized that this is something that matters to you. So we're going to do that tonight, okay? Yes. Just indicate for me if you're hearing me well. Just let me know if you're hearing well. Okay, I can see my panelists are coming in tonight, and we're going to have a fantastic night. So from 7:15 to 8:15, we're going to have a powerhouse session here, straight talk for 1 hour with our panelists, and they come heavy, they come prepared as always. And then guess what, guys? At 8:30 tonight, 8:30, we're going to have the lawyer, Mr. Corey GREENIDGE, is going to be back. And we want to have him, as I told the panelists, as a standalone. And the reason is that he is going directly into that bill. And it's important, very important. He's going to point out to you a particular section 52B, that was omitted by the Attorney General. And it's important that we look at the legality of the bill. We look at it's a bill that they're trying to make into a law. And so therefore it is important that we have a lawyer to sit down and to go through this with us. And thank God, Mr. GREENIDGE will be back with us here tonight. And then at 9 o'clock, phone line is going to be open up, and we need to hear from you. So we have a very, very structured program tonight. Okay. Yes, I'm hearing Wade Gibbons is in journalism. I don't know if Dave could find his picture. I don't even know what he looks like. And I'm sure my illustrious panel that's coming up will be able to give some insight. I know that I was told he's a former police officer, and that he's in journalism. Yes, somebody's saying they can hear me loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, in between there, we're going to talk about the announcer. Some announcing is going on about the announcer, and it seems like some powers that be, they're trying to. I'm asking the question: are they trying to fire the announcer from Starkcom? We're going to look at that. We'll spend a couple minutes to look at that, and here on the show, we're going to be following that very, very closely. We got some word of that on Thursday, and I put out a little something on the YouTube page, and then I saw some things going, WhatsApp. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But question is, folks, have you liked yet? Have you shared? Have you shared the link to your WhatsApp group? Tonight it's all about education. It's always about education, but tonight more than ever. All right. Now, as the panelists are getting ready to join, I want to just bring our attention back to. I want to bring our attention back to the article by Wade Gibbons, and I know that most of you have read this already. But we're just going to read it again before the panelists come in. We're not wasting any time tonight. And the heading says, "Time to Wake Up, Barbados." Time to Wake Up, Barbados, by Wade Gibbons. Illegal wiretapping was first introduced in Barbados under a previous BLP government. It was requested by a very senior government official and carried out by junior members of the special branch of the Royal Barbados Police Force under senior police instructions. The wiretapping was not used to target criminals nor fight crime in Barbados. It was used strictly for political reasons, and among the numerous phones or persons tapped were those of late Prime Minister Owen Arthur, his police driver, magistrate and children's advocate Faith Marshall Harris, Police Service Commission member Keith Whitaker, former Deputy Police Commissioner Bertie Hines, and other personalities connected to both the BLP and the DLP. May I pause by saying that I probably should have read the article from Barbados Underground first, where this information, which is the source of this information, and the source of the article from the. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. Really sorry about that. Okay, oops. Okay, we had a little challenge there. Okay, 1 second, folks. Let me just sort this out. Okay, really sorry about that. That's my son calling, and it came through the computer. Really sorry about that. Okay, I was saying that the Barbados, the article from Barbados Underground was from a source court document. All right. So what is being stated here, it's not hearsay. It's coming from a court document. So let's just establish that. The wiretapping. The late great Inspector of Police Anderson Invader Bowen, who was also a victim of the illegality, went public and blew the whistle on the practice, as well as the persons responsible for bugging people's phones. His career suffered for his honesty and patriotism. There should be a plaque or monument in his name featured prominently at police headquarters. And I think I need to read the paragraph before that when I was interrupted. The wiretapping was not used to target criminals nor fight crime in Barbados. It was used strictly for political reasons, and among the numerous phones or persons tapped were those of late Prime Minister Owen Arthur, his police driver, magistrates, and children's advocate Faith Marshall Harris, Police Service Commissioner Keith Whitaker, former Deputy Police Commissioner Bertie Hines, and other personalities connected to both the BLP and the DLP. An official investigation was carried out post-2008, and the officers involved in the wiretapping gave evidence before a tribunal and identified the senior officer or political operative who ordered the illegal tapping. There are actual tapes of some of these illegal wiretapping sessions still locked away. After the hearings and subsequent damning report signed off by Sir Elliot Belgrave, a great service was done to Barbados, and the individual responsible for that crime lost his job. But as the excellent crime report commissioned by opposition leader Ralph Thorne and championed by Verla de Pisa suggests, sanctions seem reserved for certain class of Bajans, and this maverick public servant walked off into the sunset without facing the law courts. Every effort was subsequently been made to sweep this criminal act under the carpet. Threats to the media, lawsuits, coercion of public and private officials, even an attempt to conceal the report from the citizens of Barbados. Following the change of government in 2018, the principal players in the illegal wiretapping episode have been richly rewarded with various appointments and consultancies. Now, a BLP government is seeking to introduce legal wiretapping. But can they be trusted, especially where players involved in the illegal wiretapping are still hiding in plain sight? No, this government cannot be trusted to use legal wiretapping for the right reasons and to combat crime. There is a reason why crime and violence have escalated under this BLP government. There is a reason why drug dealers and gangsters feel emboldened under this present government. There are government officials who are bedfellows with these elements, and they are not strange. These shadowy characters have been honored guests at Parliament. They have made phone calls to politicians that have made police officers skulk away from doing their jobs. They have been paid millions not to participate in crime, but the stats point to different outcomes. Only this week, 2 factions were invited to the precincts of the NCF, but that turned into a bottle throwing, hammer swinging, stone tossing fracas. Thankfully, it seems the guns were left at home. Such is the comfort these thugs have with this government that they have publicly via video announced who is their boss lady. This government is a cancer. Most of what it does points to malignancy. Barbadians cannot afford for these 7 years of serpentine saturation to descend further into a decadent decade. Under this administration and given its history, this government cannot be trusted to use legal wiretapping to fight a segment of Barbados of which it is enamored. We have had it all in Barbados these past 7 years. Political assassinations might not be too far away, based on what coming from one's mouth is caught on wire. Be afraid, be very afraid of this unholy cartel. Now, that was a long article, but I thought it was necessary to read it before we begin this evening. So let me just bring the panel in at this time. Miss Rose Corbin, Maxine McLean, and
hello.
Mr. Glenn Murray.
Good night.
Good night, good evening, and welcome.
Good evening.
I seem so formal. Why are we being so formal?
Serious business tonight.
Serious business tonight. Very serious business tonight. And I want to thank you all very much for adapting with me to this format tonight. Thank you, Mr. Murray. I know you had something prepared, and hopefully you can present it later in this week. But Ms. Corbin and Ms. McLean, Mr. Murray, when I read this article today, after it was sent to me, I don't know how many times it was sent to me today, I realized this is something that it's a piece of writing that is I thought was very, very important. And I thought that it would be important for us to break it down to our this is Mr. Wade Gibbons. Okay, I don't know if there's another photo, but I don't know him. I guess you guys. That's him. I think one of the things that we can start with, Miss McLean, is to tell us a little bit about Mr. Wade Gibbons, just briefly.
Well, as what I can tell you is he's an excellent journalist. He epitomizes the saying that the pen is mightier than the sword. Then you see the quality of his articles. And I think you mentioned earlier, it's my understanding that at some point in time, he would have been a member of the Royal Barbados Police Force as it was known then.
Yeah.
And Glenn may like this from what I heard, Glenn can clarify, he went to the University of Waterford.
Say Combermere, right? Thank you very much.
Combermere, I have no problems with Combermere. I have 4 nieces who went there, etc. So that is it. But I have heard he's always been an excellent writer. As a journalist, I've always been impressed. And the other thing I would say that he has, when he worked in the media, I thought he was always well researched. And outside of the traditional media, in his what I would call his private writings, or writing as not as an employee of a media house, he's been fearless.
He's been fearless, yes. And one of the reasons that Mrs. Corbin, that I decided to use his article today for the tonight is that I really want Barbadians to understand that the opposition is really all of us. It's every one of us. They don't have to be on the show. You know, you can use your Facebook, use your Instagram, use your, if you have a YouTube channel, use it, use WhatsApp. Once they at least know they haven't started to listen to that yet. Well, so we think, but you still have that. But let's go right into this article tonight. But we want to let's just set the context. Mr. Murray, can you briefly explain, what is wiretapping and why government may say they need it? What is the difference? Is there a difference between legal and illegal wiretapping? What is wiretapping? Why government needs it? Say they need it, and what is the difference between legal?
Can it bring a fan for me? Plug in this fan. And
yes, go right ahead, Miss.
You're putting me in a very difficult spot, but I can't, because I wouldn't like to dare to try to venture to explain the motives and the rationale of this government, not even in this measure. What I would like to say to start off with, I'd like to start off where Mr. Gibbons started off. He said, according to his article, for what do we call that, illegal wiretapping started under a previous Barbados Labour Party government. Okay? But I haven't listened to the vast majority of the debate in Parliament last Friday. I found it instructive that contrary to the turmoil and upheaval and discomfort and unhappiness and edginess and distrust that I found among any Barbadian who spoke about this matter, nobody's taking it in their stride. When the question of illegal, when in his presentation, the Attorney General Marshall said that he brushed it off. Oh, it's been happening in Bahrain for decades. For decades. The Prime Minister in her wrapping up debate, in her contributing debate towards the end of the debate, said that it dates back, it's a significant dates back to the days of Prime Minister Erskine Sandiford and also Attorney General Maurice King, both of whom are dead and cannot defend themselves on the record. And I found that rather than seeking to explain, make excuses to apologize to the public for the past sins in the public's mind that are happening where taboo is concerned, she tried to sidestep it and dismiss it and share the blame. She should have used the occasion to apologize. She should have used the occasion to assure the public that contrary to what might have happened in the past, it will not happen under her watch. Rather than that, she sought to spread the blame across the years and against a person who cannot say. And I think that is indicative of the government more so than the motive. It explains the motive behind it. Because let me make this point. This is, to put it in Barbadian paradigm, this is the most don't care government ever seen in care in Barbados, where they don't seem to care about public opinion or how the public sees them. They just do what they want to do when they want to do it. I don't think the Prime Minister seems to understand. She seems to bask in the glory of two previous term life, but they don't seem to understand that that goodwill that would have accompanied those two victories has greatly diminished, and therefore she cannot take public support as a social capital for granted anymore.
Yes. Thank you for that, Miss McLean. We're using the word wiretapping very loosely. And I explained to the viewers that, and so is Mr. Wade Gibbons in that particular article. But really, as I said, as I was saying, I told the viewers that I know that it is wider than that. Okay, we're not, because and I'll allow you to give us the definition of wiretapping in this time.
Well, my definition, let me put it that way. Wiretapping really is listening into, in terms or accessing people's communications. Because when we spoke of wiretapping previously, it was a situation where people had telephones and landlines. So you literally had, for telecommunications company, wires running across the country. So you literally tapped into those wires, if you think of it. But what this is talking about is accessing people's intercepting people's communication, whether it's telephone, whether it's internet, and so the range of communications. And so I can imagine that somebody's listening to my landline, they're monitoring my cell phone, they're looking at my emails, and as we heard in the debate, basically, when we thought that WhatsApp was safe and encrypted and all of that, we know that it can be accessed. So really and truly, as it says here, is the act of secretly intercepting and listening to calls, telephone calls, and other communications, often without their knowledge or consent. It's electronic surveillance. So they're observing your every move, quote unquote, using all the means of communication.
Yeah.
So I call you on my phone and I listen to the two of us.
So right, and I loved how you listed so that all the devices, because it's not just your phone, but your emails, it's any form of communication, your WhatsApp. Because somebody called me today, and they said, do you mean that if I send a post to somebody via WhatsApp, send a message, a voice note, all of it, okay? And so it's important that we clarify that. Let me ask Mrs. Corbin. The article gives us some lessons from the past, right? According to this article, illegal wiretapping was first introduced under a previous BLP government. And I would like for you, Mrs. Corbin, to just summarize for us what actually happened when you read this article. And I'm sure you must have read also the document, the court document that was out for a while now, with the Barbados underground. What actually happened?
Thank you. I would first say that I would want to trust the integrity of the article and of the writer. Miss McLean spoke to, I would have read articles written before by him years ago. I've lost touch, haven't read anything recently, and so I would want to trust the integrity of his article and what was presented. What I have gathered from it is that the activity of wiretapping has been used, it has been carried out, it has been executed, in some cases unaware to the person who may have been tapped or whose conversations would have been listened into. And that it is a dangerous way to go in terms of the wide reach of wiretapping and the insecurities and fears that it can cause to the public at large, who is protected from it, who would it be used on or against. And those are some of the things that I gathered from the article. And this relates to what I would have heard and was educated on by listening to the panelists on the DLP TV on Thursday night as they were preparing for the presentation in Parliament on Friday, as they were seeking to inform. Now, Marcia, like all others, we would have joked in the past about And Maxine and I were laughing about this, about wiretapping, and you would hear at times when we had the wire telephone, you would hear like a click in the telephone. I don't know if Glenn remembers that. And you would say, somebody listening, somebody listening. You could hear that click. And there were people who would actually start cursing. If you listening to beep, beep, beep my conversation, this what beep, beep, beep I have to tell you. There were times I know I was talking to someone, we heard a click, and the person started singing. And so we have been aware informally, as it were, that there's something called, what we didn't even call it wiretapping. We say, I hear somebody listening in on our
Listening in,
conversation.
people listening
I
in.
was speaking parables, but now it is cause for concern given the kinds of designations, I don't know if that's that word, the kind of things that are now attached legally to justify um, this interception of communication. That's the name, interception of communication. Things like anything that may resemble a conversation that will cause treason or political unrest, or it broadens now what we
Yes,
would have been accustomed to. And I
went
think
back
that
in
has
that
brought
time.
the article signals to.
So, Mr. Murray, I was listing the types of people and the names of people. So there were categories of people and names of people that were mentioned in the article. I want to know from you, were you surprised at those names? And
I,
for the person who is listening, I know there are people watching from St. Vincent and other countries. Can you make it clear for us, were these people criminals, or were they political figures?
I was shocked. It happened after I left cabinet in 2003. It happened
Hmm.
around, from what I understand, around 2007, in the last days of Prime Minister Wayne Arthur. And he
Hmm.
himself was a subject, a target, a victim of it, him and his driver and whatnot. And he was very upset. He was annoyed. He was offended because it really struck the core of the trust that people had in their governments, in the institutions. Offended.
So, Mr.
Why?
Murray, allow me to ask you, because you have age as your your weapon against us
My
tonight.
my uh, my 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 asset,
Your asset. Thank you,
right?
thank you. That's the right word. Let me ask you something. Did you ever speak to Mr. Arthur about this, sir?
Of course, we discussed it. Of
Mm.
course, we discussed it, and he was offended for that kind of happened, and it was something he knew nothing about. He did not initiate it. I think it involved persons close to him, persons who he had known for many years and trusted and respected, and known him very closely. So he felt it was an act of betrayal, not only against himself and against the integrity of the government, of the whole system, because Barbadians have felt since then that it might not have been, if it was not illegal, it was offensive, it was immoral, untrustworthy, all the negative things, because it betrayed a certain trust in the society at large, that I expect a certain standard of behavior from the whole society, and all the institutions involved in it, especially those wielding tremendous authority and power.
Wow. So it's a shock for you to know the type of people. Here it is saying former Prime Minister Owen Arthur. Those of you who are listening from overseas, from other countries, this is what and this is court documents. This is coming from court documents, Mr. Murray.
Right, I
So
read the
we don't
document.
have to say alleged. His police driver, magistrate, the children's advocate, Faith Marshall Harris,
Um, it's a,
Police Service Commission member Keith Whitaker, former deputy, even the former deputy police commissioner. Now, were these, to the best of your knowledge, Mr. Murray, were these criminals? Were
I
these
never,
the criminal
as
elements in the country?
I never even heard a rumor, a whisper, a suspicion that there might have been. So the collection is so wide and widespread. It makes it seem as though people were carrying their personal peaks and assignments against other individuals for whatever reasons, not anything associated with policy or programs or offenses or activities in the government or the public interest. It seems to have been a personality driven. I might also say around that same time, I mentioned it before, that was when they had an attempted palace coup in the government. Okay? People seem to have been urgent and couldn't wait their turn or wait for the process to think. And there was an attempt to overthrow Mr. Arthur's government while he was prime minister. Fortunately, somebody involved passed the word and was nipped in the bud. So it's not so you can't just say it in isolation as happened. The political forces at work must have been involved, to my mind, have been involved in that also.
Yes. Ms. McLean, thank you, Mr. Murray. Ms. McLean, the tribunal identified the senior figure who ordered the taps. The question is, why was there no prosecution? If it was because it would have been illegal, right? And these are all...
Say that again.
The tribunal identified, this is now from the court document, the senior figure who ordered the taps, the wiretaps. The question is, why do you think there was no prosecution? Do we know what became of the tapes and evidence collected back then?
I have absolutely no idea. They're probably with the people who did it in the first place or copies of them, because trust me, I watch enough movies, and movies mirror reality, that people might have kept information. But remember, if you look at paragraph 3 of the article, there is reference to the late great inspector of police, Anderson Invadable. Now, when I call that name, it hurts my heart. He's a Black Rock boy, went to St. Stephen's Primary School. So I know him, or I knew him, because he's not with us anymore. From all that you understand here and where the court documents would have originated, from my understanding, he would have been subject to this, and he brought a case. But unfortunately, and this is where the persons who we would have to go back and research to get the full details. What happened was he died. And in fact, what is on the screen right now speaks to an article which would have been in Barbados today. And it speaks to comments from his widow. You understand? Because so in essence, a process, from what I understand, of investigation might have started. Unfortunately, he died, and some things probably stopped. But if you look, you will see that certain action was taken. There's reference to the former commissioner of police.
Yeah, we probably should read it. Let's just read it, Ms. McLean.
Okay.
Can you see it to read it, or you want me to read it?
Okay,
Can you read it? Thank you.
Social activist Charmaine Roland Bowen says she feels violated by government's decision to engage former Commissioner of Police Darwin Dutton as a consultant on crime. Roland Bowen, who is president of the Barbados Road Safety Association, obviously at the time this was written, said she was not motivated by vengeance, but wanted closure on one of the most unsavory periods of her life. Roland Bowen is the widow of late Detective Inspector Anderson Bowen, who more than a decade ago blew the whistle on the Royal Barbados Police Force for allegedly engaging in illegal wiretapping. Roland Bowen, a born-again Christian, told Barbados Today that she wanted justice. She said there was an abundance of evidence that illegal wiretapping had been conducted in Barbados. And if the head of the force at the time was denying it, then it meant her late husband was a liar, as well as everyone else who had spoken out about it. She said her husband had a civil suit before the Supreme Court with respect to illegal wiretapping at their home, but he died before the case's completion. And, so that speaks to some, it was a civil case, but the lawyers perhaps can speak to that some more. But all I would say, it is unfortunate that Inspector Bowen did not have his day in court.
And
as the
it was done to him, and he was a whistleblower.
right.
Mm. But why do you think though? Here's this woman, Miss Bowen. She's asking for justice, and to this day, there was no prosecution, even though the person who did it was identified. There was no prosecution. Why do you think there was no
Well, the
prosecution?
person who is alleged to have done it, because until the court rules,
Alleged, yeah. Hmm.
until the court rules, and in fact, there may be further information to which we are not, to which we do not have access. But to my mind, and I am not a lawyer, so I prefer to have legal eagles speak to these things. But to my mind, our legal system, there are processes that have to be followed, and things have to be initiated. Oftentimes, for example, this was a civil suit, from what Mrs. Roland Bowen said in relation to what was ongoing when Inspector Bowen passed away. Now, the question I will ask, and this is something that an attorney can answer: who initiates criminal action? In other words, if it is illegal, and therefore I would use the word criminal, where does that, in the case of those accused, who will initiate it? My question is, what is the role of the Director of Public Prosecutions in all of this? Because I ask questions because I'm not a lawyer. So the question is it a simple matter, or let me put it differently. What is the process to be followed in actioning something like this within our justice system?
Yeah.
And that may help us to understand why it is where it is, or where it isn't.
Right. Why? Probably there was the point is that there was no prosecution. Whatever the reason is, there is no prosecution, which is leading me to the question here for Mrs. Corbin, I believe. Mrs. Corbin, the article claims they're key players in the illegal wiretapping scandal, and that they still hold influence today. In fact, I will tell you that one of them actually turned out at one of our roadside parliaments. I don't know if you guys are aware, but while we were there, on stage speaking, etc., this particular person was pointed out to me, trying to hide in the shadows. Don't know why they were at the roadside parliament, but the point is that they are with us in the society, and they're not just in the society, Mrs. Corbin, but a lot of them, it's alleged that they hold influence today. If this is true, what does this mean for public trust? Here we are. We're talking about, the government is now saying, okay, we're going to do it legally. It was done illegally, but we're going to do it now legally. What does that mean for public trust at this point to you?
I can say engendering even greater mistrust and fear within the society. I listened to the entire debate even before Parliament started. I was online, and the AG's way of handling it, it was illegal before. It happened all the time. It's been happening. All we're doing is legalizing it. That concerns me. That you are legalizing something that in the past has affected so many persons who were unaware that they were being the conversations were being tapped into, and these were not criminals as we would they're seeking now to say it is to track down criminal activity. Therefore, what we used to dismiss as the listening into the conversation, is greater now. You don't know who, it's like a science fiction movie now or something
Yes.
like that. You don't know where Big Brother will be. Who is Big Brother? You know the book 1984. Who is Big Brother? And you are going to be suspicious. It's going to limit our conversations. So I want to have a conversation with you, Marcia, about what's next on the Marcia Week show. And we have to be cautious. We now have to get our own code to speak. It is not as dismissive. I found the AG's presentation, as like, fear not. That is what was captured on the front page yesterday. Fear not, as if the AG were the angel Gabriel, or one of those angels at Christmas, telling the shepherds and the wise men, don't be afraid. And it is more than that.
Yes.
One, we are not clear who is exempted from this. And don't tell me, panelists, that if you're not doing a crime, or if you're not involved in a crime, you don't have need to fear. Something as evasive as this should cause persons to fear, and it would raise suspicion to amongst persons for whom there should be no suspicion. I will start wondering, can I trust this person and this conversation that I'm having with them? It is not a comfortable place to be sitting in, particularly to what we would have read in the article and where how the bill has been presented to us and the explanations that have been given.
So
More
far
needs to be brought to us.
Yes. So you're saying there is that distrust there, Mr. Murray. Since 2018, some of these players were allegedly, since 2018 when this new government came in. So I want people to follow what's happening, and I think I saw a question from Camille Aline asking when the article that we had about Roland Bowen, when that article was printed, well, it was published. I'm sorry, published in Barbados today, and I'm sure Dave will find that information and put it up for you, Camille Aline. But back to Mr. Murray. Since 2018, some of these players were allegedly rewarded with consultancy and appointments. So people listen to the date, 2018. What happened in 2018? We had the BLP government under Mia Motley. They went into power, and some of them were rewarded with consultancy and appointments. How should Barbadians interpret that? Is it possible that the same people who abused wiretapping in the past will have legal access to it now?
I think we are having a feedback somewhere in the system.
Coming in, I'm not sure from where.
Yeah. Okay. And that is the problem when we see people whose name had been linked with this dastardly, unprecedented move are being promoted, rewarded, installed. It offends people. It brings distrust, mistrust, cynicism. It also see what kind of government is this. And that's why it says it's a don't care government. It does not care about it does not care, or it's tone deaf. They understand what the public is saying and feeling, because process matters. And to have, there was a so-called independent advisory committee, for example. There are certain things about the bill which might not have come out in the press, but if you listen to the debate, where this, for example, this in the so-called the commissioner of police and a director of the anti-corruption entity unit, or whatever it's called, were supposed to be party to any wiretapping that was going on. They were supposed to be informed about it, aware of it. And then they're supposed to be an independent authority selected by the minister, who would also set the fees, etc. That was what was proposed in the bill. And this has not, I haven't seen it in the press yet, maybe today. Mr. Thorne objected to it, saying that no politician should be involved in the process. This authority was supposed to be appointed by the minister. It was supposed to be terms and conditions paid that was determined by the minister. But Mr. Thorne objected and pointed out the danger of the political involvement and proposed that it should be appointed by the president and should report to the president. The government took the prime minister, when she spoke, agreed with that amendment. And it was, from what I recall, it was changed on the floor of House late in the day when they were passing the bill. So here was this government. You would think that if it had been aware of how the public feels about some of these personalities and the process and the political involvement in the original situation about which Mr. Gibbons wrote, would have taken steps to distance themselves. But they came to the whole, it was in the actual bill. What kind? I mean, they don't understand how the public sees these things. They don't understand how the public distrust them, and feel they're very susceptible and vulnerable when these things are, and would have taken. I'm surprised that something as significant and sensitive like that politically could have made it try through the process into the written bill and come to the floor of the House and without anybody saying, well, let's change this file. This is not good enough. I think it should change because no politician should be involved. And if it only makes you understand it, and that they've been spotted and agreed to by the government, that would also be a part of the list, and therefore the whole system will therefore be vulnerable to further contamination politically.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're going to have the attorney, Mr. Corey GREENIDGE, is going to be joining us at about 8:30 tonight, and he's going to look a little closer into that and that particular section in the bill, and some changes that the Prime Minister also said that was going to happen there. So I'm going to leave that for him to look at. But Mrs. Corbin, the article by Wade Gibbons alleges that there are links between government officials and known criminals. How credible you think these claims are? And how might such relationships affect who gets targeted by wiretaps? Can you hear me?
Sorry. For me, this is new, Marcia. I've only had a couple of days to become prepared on this wiretapping, as well as to understand what they've called the interception of communication bill. I had to learn really fast, and therefore it is like stepping into some terrain that I've got to learn more about. What I would want to say is that how will this, I'm saying it more than a bill or an act, I'm saying it as a tool or a mechanism that can be misused and abused now legally, since if it becomes an act of Parliament.
It would be. But the question is, when we look at this article here, the article is saying that and it made some references. It talked about what happened on Good Friday, which caused a lot of people to believe that there is some connection with those in crime, and the government. One could deduce that, at the Parliament, when Parliament opened in 2018, when this government was first, in government, when they were first being sworn into government, that there were criminal elements. The police has said that there were criminal elements that were who were in Parliament. And so I think what Mr. Gibbons is saying, that based on all of these things that we saw, that he is alleging that the government is in bed with criminals in this country. And my question is, if that is so, then will the intention, or those that the wiretapping is intended for, do we think that they would be the target then, or it will, they will, the intended, you understand the question I'm getting? I know it's a funny kind of a question, because none of us, you're probably going to say you don't know really if the government is connected to crime, but if it is so, would it be difficult for the legal wiretapping to really be able to go towards the target of the wiretapping? Anybody can answer.
Marcia, if I might say that, I know you're going to have the legal, the authority, law deal with it in detail, but based on what I saw and heard in the debate, the actual debate that passed the bill last Friday, my one area of hope of protecting the public from the system, the misuse system, is that the 3-member independent advisory committee, supervisory committee authority, according with which should have been proposed that it be appointed by the minister, a political figure, chosen by the minister, etc., is now going to be appointed by the president in his or her own wish. No, she's not supposed to consult, advise. He or she should be able to select from the society. Because there was a proposal, one coming from civil society sector. He or she should now be able to select in their own due judgment, select persons who can therefore keep an eye on behalf of the entire society on the procedure, on the mechanism, to see that the structure and the procedures that are proposed for this authority, for this process, are followed and respected and adhered to. That's the only hope I can say. A system, the intentions of a system or a system can only be as good as those people who manage it and conduct it and operationalize it. So I'm saying that my one area of hope and optimism is that a properly chosen 3-member supervisory committee, advisory committees, right, authority, will be able to instill and make sure that the values, the ethos, the principles, the practices that are supposed to be surrounding this activity are maintained.
If I could, Marcia, I really want to ask a couple questions, because I will get back to that paragraph there about shadow characters later. But my first question is, what changes with this piece of legislation? Because notwithstanding what was suggested by the Prime Minister about illegal wiretapping, the issue for me is, with this legislation, who are you creating, or how are you creating a mechanism to move outside of what is considered the traditional need for wiretapping? Because in the past, the police, and this is something that can be expanded on, the police had mechanisms by which, where they had justifiable or real legitimate concerns about criminal activity, to go to the court, etc. Okay? From what I heard presented in your discussion with Mr. GREENIDGE on Friday night, there is significant room in this legislation to allow the powers that be, those persons who are authorized, to go and intercept, or wiretap people who are not necessarily criminal, but based on all that has been defined in there can be lumped into something for expediency, and do it in a way that allows them to do it. Because what Glenn is describing is a monitoring mechanism. But before we get to the monitoring mechanism, we have to ask ourselves about what is to be monitored. So in essence, we are saying we have these systems in place. But what I'm seeing in this law, based on I think before you had to have a warrant. Now, if I recall correctly, you do not necessarily have to have a warrant up front. You can go and do your investigations, your interception, your wiretapping. And if you find information, if I am wrong, the lawyer can correct me later, or you, because you would have been listening to him.
Yeah.
If you find evidence that you should then prosecute, you can then go to the court and get a warrant to do further investigation. But they're already tapping into my phone talking to you about something that is not criminal at all, but simply because the government wants to understand. Now, your question about those persons, if we have a system where the process becomes contaminated, you are in fact interfering with the police officers in the same way that we heard about an interference on the Good Friday. So in essence, your concern is how, at least from my interpretation of what you said, how do we now seek to ensure, or how can they reassure us that because of this alleged fraternizing and so on, how do we now ensure that those persons, whoever they are, once they are criminal or whatever they're suspected, the police can do their job legitimately? But all that we are seeing discussed makes one wonder the extent to which two things happen. One, you reduce your ability to pursue the criminals in the way they should be pursued objectively. And two, you're creating a situation where in fact you may be less concerned about the criminal and more about persecuting your political opponents or persons you perceive to be threats to you, or you just want malicious in the business.
Correct. And so that's where I was going with that line of questioning, because if the government, Rose, has ties to criminal elements, the question is there a danger if the government has ties to criminal elements? Is there a danger that the law could be weaponized against ordinary citizens, journalists, political opponents instead of gang leaders? There are several Caribbean countries I was researching where that has been done. So, Rose, as we wind down this discussion, having read the article, and I deliberately wanted us to pay attention to the article. I know it feels like I didn't want us to speak around the article. I wanted to speak about the contents of the article. There's a particular reason why I want that, because I want Barbadians to really take the time to understand what they have read. What they would have read is that, according to the court documents, there were people who were, some of them political opponents, some of them from the same political party, BLP, DLP, all kinds of people, prime ministers, former prime ministers, all kinds of people were being illegally tapped. And the reality is that there are people that were part of that. There were perpetrators who are still working in government as consultants, all kinds of different things, different job descriptions. They're still there in government. The question is, Rose, what should citizens do? What can the ordinary, with knowing this, having this knowledge, what can ordinary people do concerning this bill? This bill is going to the Senate on Wednesday, Rose. What can ordinary, the ordinary citizen, Barbadian citizen, do concerning this bill, which is about to be passed on Wednesday?
Yes, Marcia, I'm glad for the opportunity to respond to that. I would want to see more than the token or tokenism thrown at us on Friday when the Prime Minister came in, and basically it was blind. You alluded to it. It was like, oh, the leader of the opposition, if he had stayed around, he would have heard that I am going, and I made a note here. I will amend the bill in Parliament that 3 persons will be appointed by the President on that monitoring committee, so that it can be done without consultation by the PM or the leader of opposition, to ensure no political interference. That is what was said. I wrote it down. We are requesting from my end more than tokenism, saying, well, if you ask for that, we're going to give you that. But there is more, Glenn and Maxine and Marcia and listeners, in that bill that needs to be addressed and be offered in the best interests of the public at large, the Barbadian citizens. Never mind the president is now being given that autonomy and power. We do know that people can maneuver and work around to do what they want to do, legally and or illegally. What I would want also is, as we did with the cybercrime bill, get before the upper Senate, upper house signs off on it, that there be a committee. I'm hearing that there were 2 stakeholders meetings. I'm not aware of it. The leader of opposition said he wasn't aware. Where were they held? Who were the stakeholders? Have that kind of body set up, as was done with the cybercrime bill, to hear submissions and concerns from the general public and pull it back. It was badly drafted. There were too many errors when it went to the committee, Glenn and Maxine and the public. When it went to the committee, there were too many typographical errors that the AG pointed out, repetitions that had to be deleted. It was not a tidy draft. It seemed to be hurried, and I would want the public to request that it be pulled back and that there be a committee set up, giving the public the opportunity, whether virtually or in person, to speak to this particular Interception of Communication Bill 2025. It cannot go as it is, and it cannot exist as it is. Do not say that it doesn't concern me. I am not involved in criminal activity. It has long reach, and you may say something that can easily be easily shaped into something that is anti-government and put you at risk. So that is my take. Pull it back, revisit it, recalibrate on it, redesign it, but in the interest of the Barbadian public. And don't tell me also, and I'll wrap up here, as the AG keeps saying, that Barbados has come to the party too late. They're no party. We're not trying to keep up with the other countries that have this act as legislation passed. So you cited other countries. What have you learned from those countries? What do their legislation looks like? Don't tell us we are playing catch up and you want to tick a box and move on. I think that it will engender mistrust, and we want something that's more transparent. And don't come to us, Madam Prime Minister, and say, oh, you asked for this, we're going to give you this, so that it would look like, you're responding to people. And your own people out there on Facebook are talking about reasonableness, that the Prime Minister is being reasonable to set up this monitoring committee, where we are asking for more of that reasonableness in this particular very important piece of legislation that you're seeking to pass. That's my passionate, may say, contribution on that one. What can we do? That's what I'm asking for.
Hello?
Marcy, you are muted.
Hello?
We're not hearing Marcia. I think she may be muted.
Sorry, guys, we're having a whole set of technical issues that's going on, but I'm pressing on.
Wiretapping?
I don't know, but a lot of stuff is happening.
Maxine, you're being cheeky.
But listen, Mr. Murray, what other forms of protest or public engagement do you think are most effective in stopping or amending laws like this? I mean, when we think that this is going to the Senate on Wednesday, what do you suggest? We have 3 minutes.
I suggest, Rose, you have to give me more than 3 minutes, for Rose had more than that, if I might say. I'm not being thing, but I just feel I have enough to say. I
actually don't have it, so I can only give you that time.
Okay, but no, you're the boss of the time, so I will make as much use as I can of the time.
Yes.
The manner, remember we talk about process? Maxine might be able to tell you this, but I do not. This bill was supposed to be on Parliament's website. I'm not sure how long it was there for. But I'm saying my whole thing is that placing a bill on a website, no matter how long, is not enough to satisfy to engage the public. There has to be a public education information program. In days past, the GIS would have sat down and wrote a story about what the bill is coming up, what it implies, and get the public interested. Not even the press does that nowadays. I think some of them say they get the notice of the bills too late. But the point is that there's a vacuum of information, and therefore that vacuum, based on the past history of this issue of wiretapping, the public will naturally gravitate towards the negative because they're suspicious. And the government therefore is bringing that on its side because it's deliberately, to my mind, failing and refusing to let the public. This could have been raised at one of the Ideas Forum or speech to let the public know what they're doing as regards crime. But what I think happened, if you look at the politics of it, I think this was tacked on to my mind, to those measures dealing with the increase in the salaries of the police and the special constable. They wanted to show they were doing something positive and strong in the crime fight, coming on the heels of the very, to me, impactful and work on the crime commission with the Democratic Party, which caught the public's attention. I think this was trying to catch up because they were back raised they were jumped by the Democratic Party's presentation to the public, and therefore I thought they had to do something to try to catch up. But otherwise, there would be no need to try to rush.
Yes.
Why rush it? I think they had to show that they were strong. They were fighting. They combined these things in a rush, man. The thing was replete with errors and etc. As Rose also pointed out. So I'm saying that is what to me that is the politics of it. Politics, parties and politics can still very much part of this process. So they have to show that they were in the game too. They were up there and cash. Even though the Prime Minister said she's trying to get a copy of the report she wants to read on the weekend, the point is that it had caught their notice, had caught the public's attention. I think they were trying play catch up. But if I may just make one observation. Speaking of that, Delaware, the Attorney General Dale Marshall, Minister Wilfred Abraham, Minister of Home Affairs, and the Prime Minister. Where was Minister? We're talking about crime and fighting crime. Where was Minister Kirk Humphrey? Why was he not in that making his presentation to the public? Where was we are yet to hear from him in a comprehensive, structured, coherent way. What are his thoughts, plans, intentions on fighting crime? Right? On Tuesday, Minister Chad Blackman is supposed to make a ministerial statement on educational transformation, right? On Tuesday. But where is the minister, Minister Humphrey, silent partner in there? I think that is something that we should not settle for. Come and bring the public in, inform the public, and bring the public into your confidence.
What is happening? Thank you, Mr. Murray. Ms. McLean, I know we're out of time, but I still want to know is there anything you would add of what the public can do? Wednesday is coming up. When this bill is slated to be before the Senate on Wednesday. What are your thoughts?
I think that Barbadians should bombard their members of parliament and the Prime Minister and the Attorney General. And I'll tell you why quickly. I think it's important. Glenn asked about the history of this bill. I'm looking at the Barbados Parliament website. Notice was given on this bill on the 29th of July. The first reading took place on the 29th of July, which meant they just announced it in Parliament, according to what's here. It first appeared in the official Gazette, where Barbadians will get to see it, on the 7th of August.
Wow.
In essence, the public, this went in the Gazette on the 7th of August. It was second reading, which meant it was debated in Parliament on the 8th, the next day. The committee stage that which Rose spoke to was the same day, and I want to say that why they need to petition government is that the Attorney General needs to be called out on this. He is the person who signs off on legislation saying that it is ready to be debated. He should have read it, picked up all those errors and all of those things and see. So in other words, he did not do his job. And so the point is the public did not have adequate time to look at this. And I heard this notion about consultation. Consultation with whom? I would like to hear from the Bar Association. I would like to hear from those bodies in the private sector. I would like to hear from the unions and so on. All the stakeholders, because this affects everybody.
Yes.
And we all need to call on government. And I want to say quickly, Marcia, I know you say out of time, but I just want to remind Barbadians that were it not for Mr. Thorne in Parliament, Glenn, did you say that about 3 people spoke on the bill?
Yeah.
This is a serious bill that we should have heard from MPs. This is not something that you quickly, well, they want to do it that way, quickly rush it through, which is their strategy. Very few people speak on it. And important voices that you should hear, you did not hear. So I would say to the Prime Minister via this mechanism, the Attorney General, and to the government of Barbados and all who are listening, the process of consultation was not followed, we weren't given the opportunity. The quality of what we heard from government was lacking, and therefore it would be a travesty to rush this through the Senate. They tried it with previous legislation, which really started all of how we're dealing with these issues. It is not fair to the public. And if they don't have anything to hide, they can postpone it. My last comment is that my understanding.
Last half a minute. I really am.
You're stopping me. And let me make this point. Yeah. I think it's important. There already exist mechanisms for the police to wiretap legally. So why are they rushing something like this when, in fact, when we look at it, the focus is not necessarily on enhancing that, but creating opportunities to go after the public.
Yes. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, panelists. We'll have time in the week to continue some of these points, especially this last point on what we do going forward. Thank you all so much for joining. We're going to end this segment. And I trust that we would have cemented in the minds of the people exactly what would have happened years ago and how that affects us now and how we see this present bill. Thank you all so much. God bless you, and hope you can join us sometime in the week. God bless.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Yes, I don't know if you can still get that feedback. You're still getting that feedback, guys. But we are getting ready now for the attorney to join us. We're going to go even a little deeper. Don't go, guys. Have you been sharing? Have you been liking? Guys, it's very, very important that you do that. Now, before we move on, we just have to take a couple minutes to talk about Ronnie. Well, Ronnie Clark is employed by Starkcom. All right. So we want to talk about the announcer. And I am let me just get to my phone here, because I have to say something about this quickly before I have to say something quickly before the lawyer comes on, which is going to be in a couple minutes. Now, I see something here. I was passing River Road this morning, and a birdie whispered to me that our favorite announcer is about to be dismissed by a green man for impersonating and singing carols before Christmas. It is alleged that Wednesday is to be D-Day. And the person asked me, have you heard anything? Now, folks, we would have gone through this show, and the viewers have gone through Ronnie's journey, the announcer's journey, you know, as he wrote and sang National Carol Festival. Carol herself said, it is reported that she said she doesn't, you know, she's a public figure, so people are going to sing about her and talk about her, right? And so now it seems like this is something very serious. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it. And we have, how many minutes we have? Tonight we are not scheduled. Tonight we have 6 minutes. We have 6 minutes tonight, guys. I want to hear your thoughts on this. One of the questions that I asked and I tried to find out, I was told that the employees at Starkcom, that they're not part of a union. I'm not sure why that is so. And so I realized that it is a case where he will have to get a lawyer, which I believe that he has a lawyer. I believe that he has a lawyer. I'd just like to hear somebody said Neon Star that I heard that earlier today. Anybody else? What are your thoughts about that? Pedro says to tell him to get a lawyer. Do you think really? I mean, I'm trying to understand why he's being fired. Now, remember that the song was actually played on Starkcom during the during the festival, during the competition. Is it that the Starkcom took the sponsors' money and played the song? They took the sponsors' money. Right? The song was played. Does it have anything to do with the sponsor? Why the song had to be played, but then the next day it wasn't played? That's interesting. Well, I can tell you something. I know that there's some truth to it, Judith. Margaret said it's inhumane to the announcer. Somebody said it might be something personal with the announcer, maybe at the top. Somebody said that if it is true that they're going to fire the announcer, that Starkcom needs to shut down, boycott them. Why you say that, Valerie? Why are you saying that? That's a big thing. Sharon says, when one door closes, another will open for Ronnie. Shafia says, I hope he sues them for all they have. This is pure foolishness. God don't sleep. Well, you know what? Say a prayer for the announcer. I would love to be able to have a conversation with him. But what I'm hearing, I'm getting it from good sources, that there's some truth in that. I'm hearing from good sources that there's some truth. I mean, we still have to wait to see. Duda says, and this is our last comment, no doubt this is coming. I wrote earlier in another area saying to the announcer that it was more to it than the Karolova song. And Valerie, the last comment, I hope that we, the public, will walk with him. And that's the thing. I'm hoping that. I do hope that we, the public, will walk with him. Well, folks, as you know, if there's more to that story, we're going to bring that to you right here live on the Marcia Week Show. So listen out for that. The WhatsApp message that I got here said Wednesday. I don't know. I would have to speak with the announcer to know if Wednesday is a major day for him, and I will let you guys know. Okay? Yeah. All right. Now, folks, we're going to go back to this issue with the wiretapping, and we're using that term. It's an old term because we don't have wires anymore. We've established that in our previous panel discussion. But we're using that term very loosely tonight, and we're looking at all communication. And we have with us an attorney, Corey GREENIDGE. And one of the reasons why I have him as a standalone is that it's important for us to hear from an attorney. We would have heard from Mr. Thorne, who is an attorney. He had an amazing panel the other night, just attorneys. And I think something of this nature, it's important that we hear from the attorneys. We complain all the time that we don't hear from them. So we want to give this particular young man the opportunity to be able to speak directly to us. And for you, the caller, the viewers, to be able to call in to the show. And at 9 o'clock, you'll be able to call into the show and be able to ask him questions directly. And I want you to stick around. I want you to keep liking and sharing. This is going to be very, very important that you do this tonight. Some important information is going to come to you. He's going to do a review of what we discussed the last time. I trust Dave will put up the bill so we can do a quick review, and then he is going to also move us a little further. All right. I want to just before he comes, I want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Thorne and the DLP TV for introducing him to us, and he's doing such an amazing job. And so, guys, as we paid such keen attention to the panel earlier, let's listen to attorney at law Corey GREENIDGE. Let's welcome him once again to the Marcia Week Show. Good night, sir. Welcome.
Good night, Miss Weeks. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I must tell you that people were calling me the morning after and just saying that they learned so much on the show, as they always do. But on this particular issue, they were very, very happy that the way it was broken down and they were able to understand it. And also that they felt really good to know there was a fresh voice, a lawyer who was, coming out and educating the people and calling the people to stand up. And so I want to, on behalf of the people, I want to say thank you for that, sir.
You are most welcome. Your viewers are most welcome. I like what you say, the people, because I believe that this is about the people, that I am one of the people, you are one of the people. And when we are looking at something this important, that affects everyone, it is important that we make sure that our government is doing the best job that it can be for the people. So anything that I can do to help, I'm here tonight to review. I'm here tonight to answer questions, to make sure that the people understand what is happening in our government.
Yes, and on that note, I'll remind everybody, and I'll put up the number as we go along. The number is 236-7000. 236-7000. You're calling from overseas. You can do a WhatsApp call, which will be 1-246-236-7000. Where do you want to start tonight, Mr. Greenidge?
Well, I want to start where we left off after I joined your show on Friday night.
Yes.
Obviously, the House was in session. The House of Assembly was in session all day Friday, and I would not have been able to listen to the session live. And then I went into some meetings, and then I joined your show. Having joined your show, I went back and I listened to every single hour of the presentation of the Attorney General, specifically around this piece of legislation, because I wanted to match up what was being laid on the floor of Parliament to what my understanding of the bill is. And I want to say to your audience tonight, to you, Ms. Weeks, and I say it unreservedly, that there were many instances in which the presentation of the Attorney General, at best, was misleading to the House of Assembly. I'm going to say that again because I don't want anyone to mistake. There were many instances in which the presentation of the Honorable Attorney General to the House of Parliament on Friday was misleading. And
misleading. So for me as an ordinary person, listening to you, I know you're I can tell you're a very diplomatic person. You said it was misleading. As the ordinary person, can I ask a question? Was the Attorney General lying to the public?
Well, Ms. Weeks, you describe me as diplomatic. It's not necessary diplomacy. What it is that when inside of a bill, you can say something that's true without giving the full picture. So that's why I'm very careful to use the word misleading, because if I tell you right now that I'm getting up from my office and I am going to Bridgetown and it would take me 10 minutes, I may tell you something that's true, but I've not told you if my office is in St. George, or if my office is in St. Michael, or if my office is in Warrens. So I have not necessarily given you all the information. So if you are to rely on the information that I'm giving you, you may not be able to make a decision based on the information that's given you, simply on the small bit that I've given you. No, I have not lied. I've given you the bit, but I'm not giving you all of it.
You omitted something.
I omitted something. So therefore, my comments at best are misleading. One may have to then ask, was that omission inadvertent? Was that omission something that was done purposely? I cannot get in the mind of the presenter at that time. All I can do is tell you that all of the information was not laid before the House of Parliament on Friday.
All the information was not laid before. Okay, so you're gonna tonight. Can you fill in those sections for us?
Most certainly, and it will be part of our review of what we spoke about on Friday. So if your producer could play the first clip in order when we spoke earlier.
Yes, so we played the first clip, Dave. I think he had it up there. And in the meantime, guys, this is going to be very important. We must listen, because this is why you need an opposition. This is why you need an opposition, and why we need to support what Honorable Ralph Thorne is doing. Go right ahead, Dave. Thank you.
The only individual who can authorize the interception of communication is the Chief Justice of Barbados, or if he's not available, such other judge as he would assign. So you have to literally go to the highest authority. Under this act, there is no minister who can authorize interception of communications. There's no junior functionary who can authorize interception of communications. Only the Chief Justice or such other judges he assigns is able to authorize the interception of a communication. If an interception of a communication occurs without that, that is unlawful, and the person who is guilty of unlawful interception can find himself liable to a term of imprisonment of 7 years or to $500,000 in fine, even if that individual is a police.
So my first comment tonight to your viewers and your listeners, the Attorney General said in that clip just now that if any interception of communication occurs without a warrant or without going to the judge, that is unlawful. And a person who is guilty of that unlawful interception is subject to either a fine of $500,000 or to 7 years in prison or both. That can be seen in section 5.1 of the Act, and your producer can bring it up on the screen.
Section 5.1. And what
On
page
page
is that?
9,
Page
section
9.
5.1, yes.
Section 5.1, page 9.
Yes.
Folks, are we watching and listening?
So in section 5.1, the Attorney General is correct that an unlawful interception will attract a fine of $500,000 or term imprisonment of 7 years or both. And the Attorney General is correct that a lawful interception is one that is sanctioned by the judge. But his words were, if an interception of communication occurs without it, that is unlawful. However, the part that he is not saying is that that is not the only way that an interception of communication can occur. In other words, an interception of communication that's not done by a warrant is not the only interception of a communication that is lawful. So the suggestion in his first clip that we showed is that the only lawful interception of communication is by a warrant. That is not true. There are other instances that are lawful interceptions that are not by warrant, that does not attract, I beg your pardon, a fine of $500,000 or 7 years in jail.
Let me pause you there. So give us an example. So just break it down to a WhatsApp message or something like that, that make sure we understand what you're saying.
What I will do, I'll do one better. Play the second clip so I can extend the point, and I'll bring it all home.
Great. Okay. No
Let's play
problem.
the second clip.
So you want the second clip. Go ahead, Dave. Right. We need the audio. No. Not hearing. Okay. So while he fixes
While
it.
he tees it up, I will actually quote the Attorney General. He says, "It is against the law to intercept communications." I think he has the clip.
So the bottom line is this: it is against the law to intercept communications. The only exception to that rule is if the Commissioner of Police or the Director General seeks and obtains a warrant from the Chief Justice or such of the judge as he might assign.
So I'll repeat what the Attorney General says. He says it is against the law to intercept communication. So what this bill does is that it criminalizes the interception of the communication. Earlier in the Attorney General's presentation, he made it clear that interception of communication was happening all along. And it was happening all along because he himself opined, he gave an opinion that the right to privacy was not necessarily a right that was justiciable. By that, it means that it was in the Constitution, but that was not a right that allowed for an action if that right was infringed. He said in his earlier presentation that in 2018, the Caribbean Court of Justice, through the case of Verna and the Queen, ruled that that was not true. So the CCJ disagreed with his opinion that in truth and in fact, the right to privacy was enshrined in the Constitution and it was justiciable. By justiciable, we mean that if that right is infringed, I, Corey, yourself, Marcia, any of your viewers, if our right was infringed, the CCJ say you can bring a constitutional action in the High Court for the infringement of that right. The suggestion, therefore, by the Attorney General was that this was happening all along and it was not illegal. That's true. What makes something illegal is that there has to be a law on the books in the criminal code that makes it illegal to the extent that there is a sanction if that thing is done, and it makes it criminal. So there was no law on our books that made wiretapping a criminal offense. This law does that now. So he's saying we are now putting this in place to make sure that that wiretapping is illegal. We are trying to protect you. But that is not entirely all of the story. First point I want to make is that the CCJ in 2018 gave a ruling that the right of privacy was justiciable. It gave a ruling that I could go to the High Court and I could file an action if I felt that my right to privacy had been infringed. The question begs, why did the government wait 8 years to put legislation in place to criminalize what the CCJ already says was something that was already, the CCJ had already ruled that I had a right to privacy? What you're saying to the Barbadian people is that for 8 years, this government sat and allowed my rights possibly that could have been infringed without bringing law to the law books that would make that criminal. I'll move on from there very quickly. He then says that the only exception to the rule, the only exception to the criminal position that interception of communication was now criminal, the only exception to that is if it is done by warrant. I'll repeat, this is the words of the Attorney General. That's what he said. It's a true thing, but he has not given the full picture, because that is true. If you get a warrant, to do a wiretapping, it's not an illegal wiretapping, and that's what the Attorney General is saying. However, I'm going to ask your producer to go now to section 5.2 on page 9. And we're going to refer to something that we learned on Friday. 5.2 says that a person does not commit an offense in this section. So that means that a person is not committing an illegal act by wiretapping. A person, if he wiretaps, he's not committing a criminal offense for these things. And there are enumerated A, B, and when you move to page 10, it goes all the way down to C, D, E, or G. So the Attorney General says the only time that wiretapping is legal is under a warrant. But that's not true. Because here in the Act, it tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that a wiretapping is legal. The first one here in A, the communication is intercepted in obedience to a warrant issued under 7 and 10, which means that the Commissioner of Police goes to the judge and gets a warrant. But it's not the only thing. B is a wiretapping that's not illegal. C on page 10 is a wiretapping that's not illegal. D is a wiretapping that's not illegal. E is not illegal. F is not illegal. And I want to pause here. On Friday night, I taught your viewers a very simple word in law.
Yes.
If you look at the end of F, those 2 letters have now appeared again, or R.
Or,
so when
yeah.
you put it all together, what it is saying is, if a person does a wiretapping, it is not illegal if A, it is done by a warrant, B, C, D, E, or G. So all of those conditions, any one of those conditions that are done by wiretapping is not illegal. Not illegal. Yet the Attorney General stood on the floor of Parliament and said only one exception makes it legal, and that's by warrant.
So in essence, he just talked about 5A and he did not do 5A1. Is that it?
Correct. So actually, the only one that he identified
2A.
was 5.2A.
5.2A.
Which is by a warrant. And I repeat the Attorney General again. If you want to play the clip again, just to make sure I don't misquote him.
Yeah, Dave, which one you want played? 1 or 2?
2.
Number 2. Play number 2, Dave.
So the bottom line is this. It is against the law to intercept communications. The only exception to that rule is if the Commissioner of Police or the Director General seeks and obtains a warrant from the Chief Justice or such of the judge as he might assign.
The only exception is if he seeks a warrant. So conveniently or otherwise, the Attorney General has left off B, C, D, E, F, or G. The most serious one that he has omitted, Ms. Weeks, as I alluded to on Friday, is B, 52B. And I want all of Barbadians that are listening to me tonight, put on your social media 52B. This is the problem that we are having this week. The Attorney General stood on the floor of Parliament, the House of Parliament. And I want to remind Barbadians, the House of Parliament is not for the 30 members that have gone in there to sit down for the term. The House of Parliament is the people's house. And I call it the people's house because when elections are called in this country, we go to the polls and we select a representative to go in our house to represent our interests in that house.
Mm-hmm.
The Attorney General, the duly elected member of Parliament from St. Joseph, is in the people's house, and he has a responsibility to properly represent the people in the people's house. The Attorney General stood in the House of Parliament and said clearly, the only exception is by warrant. Let's go to section 52B. Section 52B, and this is a recap because we spoke about this several times on Friday.
Yes, hashtag 52B, guys. This is it. This is what he left out.
This is what he left out.
Listen to what he left out. Wow. Go ahead, sir.
So the wiretapping is not illegal if it is done by this authorized officer. And we pointed out on Friday night that authorized officer are two persons: the Commissioner of Police,
yes,
and the Director General, the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency.
Yes.
Those two individuals. Remember, we have "or" that's at the end of this list. So it's not saying wiretapping and this thing and no. You can select or any one of these conditions, A, B, C, all the way to G. So B allows the Commissioner of Police and it allows the Director General to effect wiretapping that's not illegal in the interest of national security, for the prevention or the detection of any offense set out in the first schedule, for the safeguarding of the economic well-being of the state, or for the purpose of giving effect to an international treaty. So I want to reiterate to the viewers, the Attorney General says the only legal way to wiretap is via a warrant. And ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Barbados, that is not the case.
General seeks and obtains a warrant from the Chief Justice or such of the judge as he might assign.
That is not the case. It is not only by warrant. The Commissioner of Police can effect legally by this act a wiretapping without
a warrant. It's a warrantless.
Warrantless judge. 52B.
Wow.
And it goes on to say, if that communication so intercepted, so that communication has all that interception of communication has already happened, can now be used to go to the judge to get a warrant. But that is
after
not
the fact. After the fact. Uh-huh.
Because the original interception is not admissible as evidence in a criminal proceedings in a court of law. The Attorney General has to come to the people. Allow me, Ms. Weeks, to make a direct appeal to the Attorney General. And I don't make this appeal because I am any one person of any importance. I'm not. I'm simply a citizen in Barbados. I wake up every morning, I feed my dog, and I go to work like every other Bajan in Barbados so that I can feed my family and I can put a roof over my head and I can send my son to school. So my standing, and he will understand what that means, my standing to make an appeal to him is simply as a citizen of Barbados. And I say to him, return to the floor of the House of Assembly, of the House of Parliament, and explain to the Barbadian people what is meant by 52B. That is my appeal to the Attorney General. Don't take my word for it. You return to the House. If you inadvertently omitted to mention that it is not only by warrant, but that the Commissioner of Police and the Director General can effect wiretapping without a warrant. So maybe you misspoke. So I am asking you kindly, sir, return to the House of Parliament and explain to every citizen in Barbados why that the power has now been given to two functionaries to effect wiretapping without a judicial warrant, without judicial scrutiny. Ms. Weeks, after we spoke on Friday, I also went and checked the other legislations. I chose the three largest economies in the Caribbean community: Guyana, Trinidad, and Jamaica. I'm happy to report to you and your viewers tonight, yes, there is similar legislation in all three. In Jamaica, it was the 2002 bill. So this is nothing new. That is 23 years ago. In Trinidad, it's the bill of 2010. And in Guyana, it's a 2008 piece of legislation. In Guyana, in Trinidad, there is a similar provision as 52B. So in Trinidad, it allows for warrantless interception. In Jamaica, however, that section was removed. That section does not exist in the Jamaica legislation. And I think every Barbadian needs to say to the Attorney General and all 28 of the members of the House of Assembly that stood behind him and supported this bill, that we insist that 52B be removed. These functionaries should have to go, even in an emergency situation, to go to the judiciary in order to receive a warrant, in order to wiretap, intercept communications of the people of this nation. We sent these 29 representatives to the People's House, and they must act in the people's interests. The Guyana bill is neutral. The Guyana bill allows for wireless interception, but only under very clear emergency situations. So to wax poetic that this legislation is all over the Caribbean, again, is slightly misleading, because here you have in Jamaica, that section has been removed from the bill. 52B, we're asking the Honorable Attorney General to return to the floor. This bill has now passed the floor and is heading to the Senate. This bill now is heading to the Senate for the 21 senators to vote on whether they're going to allow 52B to remain, whether they're going to, they themselves, who are citizens of this country, to allow warrantless wiretapping of citizens of Barbados. And I am saying that every single senator that is sitting in the upper house of Parliament, whether the government senators, whether the independent senators, and most certainly these two senators in opposition, to vote against this bill. It should not remain in its current form. The Attorney General should come to the House and amend this bill and remove Section 52B, such that what he said then becomes the absolute truth, that the only way that the Commissioner of Police can legally tap citizens of Barbados is through a warrant, which is issued by the judiciary or the judges in the High Court of Barbados. I want to go on to point out one other scenario. You can play the third clip.
Wow, folks, listen, we've got to. He's saying to speak to the senators. I think what we're going to do while we're getting that other clip to come up on the screen, we need to write to the senators. We need to write to them. We need to write to our MP. We know the section that we want out of that bill. It is 52B. It's clear. We want that out of the bill, folks. Get writing tomorrow. The Senate is on Wednesday, folks. Write to your MPs. Flood the senators with emails tomorrow. Very important. Go ahead, sir.
but we're trying to say to the citizen, we understand the intrusive nature of what this is, but we have to give you certain guarantees. We have to guarantee you that only people who have a role in criminal activity can have their conversations liable to be intercepted. That's the first thing that this act says. Because you must tell the judge what is the crime that you are either detecting or looking to prevent. So unless the judge is satisfied that the individual whose communication you want to intercept is a part of a criminal activity, then he's powerless to authorize it. So then people sit in earshot today and wonder, well, so does this mean that they can come and intercept my communication? The answer, sir, is no. The answer is no, because unless you fall within the four corners of this act, you don't have a thing to worry about. So let me reiterate, for all of the many thousands of Barbadians, the many tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of Barbadians who are law-abiding, they have no need to fear this bill simply because this bill only allows for the interception of communications in an instance where an individual is involved in the criminal activity that we've outlined in the schedule. Plain and simple.
Now, I played this clip because the Attorney General gives the thousands, the tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of Barbadians a guarantee. A guarantee. And I don't know if you know the saying, Ms. Weeks, that a promise is a comfort to a fool. And I know that the Barbadian people are not foolish. So let's look at this guarantee. He is guaranteeing the thousands and the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of citizens of Barbados that the only way in which your communications can be intercepted is if you are part of a criminal enterprise of some sort, and a judge has an opportunity to make a determination of your involvement, or at least reasonable suspicion of your involvement in criminal activity. A judge. The Attorney General guarantees the people of Barbados that a judge would make that determination. How can he guarantee that a judge makes that determination if 52B allows the Commissioner of Police to execute interception of communications without having to go to the judge itself? Is the Attorney General misleading the people of Barbados? Is he misleading the House of Parliament? Does he believe what he's saying and have not gone into the bill himself? I don't know. But these are the questions I have to ask, because he makes a guarantee. A guarantee, Ms. Weeks. When in 52B, it is clearly set out. Clearly set out. And by the time now that we have talked about this, I am hoping that even the layman, this is no longer in the realm of law, the layperson can read it for themselves. It says that the communication is intercepted by the Commissioner of Police or the Director General in the interest of national security for the crimes that are listed, for the well-being of the economic well-being of the state, and to effect a request under an international treaty. So he does not have to go to a judge. Yet the Attorney General stands in the House and he says, I guarantee the thousands and the tens of thousands and the hundreds of thousands that you don't have anything to worry about. I appreciate the attempt to bring comfort to the nation, but that comfort has to be backed up by what is actually in the bill. And 52B is the comfort to a fool. Are we foolish, Ms. Weeks? I am hoping not. Let us speak truth to power. Let us put all of the parts together and let us insist. Yes, we want it to go to a judge, but right now, in the present form, in the current form that this legislation is now heading to the Senate, they don't have to go to a judge. They do not have to go to a judge. It is as clear as day. Ms. Weeks, I'm so concerned about this. It has kept me up a couple of nights. And the reason I'm here, as I said, is not because of any importance I hold myself. It is because I believe that we have gone into a space and time in Barbados where people are not speaking out, where we have come to a place where we just believe what the government tells us and we don't question anything. And my appeal to your listeners is that we now have to start to question. We now have to start to get answers and be happy that the government actually answers our questions. And that's the only reason I'm here tonight. I'll take one more clip from the Attorney General before we take questions. It's 9 o'clock. Just permit me to take one more clip.
Go right ahead.
One more clip.
This, Mr. Speaker. What is important to note from this, Mr. Speaker, is that we are providing in the statute for monitoring obligations. Remember I said to you, Mr. Speaker, at the outset that this has been going on for decades. But there was no monitoring. There was no permission to be sought. There were no requirements that had to be met. Now, when we employ this tactical measure, interception of communications, you have a duty to report to the judge on what progress you've made and what is going on with the carrying out of the search of the warrant. And when it is completed, sir, you have to submit a final report to the judge. So in every instance where this kind of warrant is issued, you have to submit a report to the judge. When that report is submitted, it is also submitted to an independent monitoring commission, independent monitoring authority.
So, I mentioned to your listeners on Friday that the two major guardrails within this legislation is first the judiciary, and we have established that the judiciary should be in place in every instance when they want to do wiretapping, which they don't know. 52B bypasses the judiciary.
Bypasses that, yeah.
And we also spoke about the Independent Monitoring Commission. The Attorney General, in that short clip, pointed out that this backstop, this final guardrail is working well because in every instance that a warrant is issued, the judge can, in his discretion, ask for progress reports. But that there also, as you can see on your screen, must be a final report that comes back to the judge. And the Attorney General was absolutely correct when he said that final report is also sent to the Monitoring Commission. So any authorized officer, both the Commissioner of Police and the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Agency, if they have gone to the judiciary and they have received a warrant, they, in some instances, would need a progress report. A progress report is at the discretion of the judge, but the final report is mandatory, and that final report must go to the commission. But here's the curious part that has been left out, and we have to marry the two things. This reporting infrastructure in the bill is set up for if you have gone to the judge and gotten a warrant. Remember, if you have gone to the judge and you've gotten a warrant, this reporting infrastructure works. But if 52B is operative and you have not gone to the judge and you have not gotten a warrant, this reporting infrastructure to the judiciary and passed on to the independent commission does not work, because it goes to the judge first and then it goes to the independent commissioner. So for the wire interceptions, the communication interceptions that are effected without a warrant, they don't get to the commission, they don't get to the independent monitoring commission unless, and you can go now, your producer can go to page 36. And I mentioned this on Friday, so I want to bring this back home and then we move to questions from your audience. On page 36, and you can scroll down to where you see annual report. So let's just bring it home. If you go, and this is what the Attorney General said, if you go and you get a warrant, and this is to assure the public that we have put the guardrails in place. but you've not told us everything. So those guardrails that you are bragging about, are they actually functioning? If you go and get a warrant, the judge can implement progress reports. It doesn't always have to, but it can. And the final report is mandatory, such that the progress reports and the final reports go to the Independent Monitoring Commission. If you have not gotten a warrant, though, the only report that the Independent Monitoring Commission can receive is the annual report. But I want you to notice and zero in, Ms. Weeks, and I want your producer to highlight it with his cursor, and I want your viewers to see. The Commissioner of Police shall send the annual report. The Commissioner of Police. Which means that any wiretapping or interception of communication that the Commissioner of Police has done goes to the Independent Monitoring Commission. But curious thing, the Director General is not part of the annual report. So if the Director General exercises the power that he has under 5.2b, there is no report or record that goes to the Independent Monitoring Commission of his activities. It is a curious thing that all along within the legislation, these two men, these two functionaries were joined at the hip as the authorized officers. And when it came to the annual report, that then you can only find the extrajudicial activity, this annual report that comes from the Commissioner of Police, the Director General of the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency has been omitted. But yet the Attorney General stands in the House of Assembly and assures us that you have nothing to worry about. All of the guardrails are in place and everything is okay.
Wow. I remember you saying that only one of them report. And the funny thing is that the Director General is a political appointee, isn't he?
That is correct. Yes, he
is. And that is the one that does not report.
That is the one that does not report. So
I remember that. This is so misleading. Listen, they stood up there. I'm not saying this person is a liar. On this occasion, I am saying, not Mr. Greenidge, I am saying on this occasion, lies were told to us. Lies. You can tell a lie by omitting. You could tell a lie by omitting things. You know, remember as a child, your parents ask you, did you do this? Did you do that? Right? And you said, did you do your homework? Yes, I did my homework. But you know, you didn't do the math. You only did English. Well, you're supposed to do math and English, and you told your parents I finished my homework. But you only did English, you didn't do math. And what they would do, they would lash you for it the next morning when you go to school and teacher said you didn't do your homework. You get lashed, sir, because you lied. And I am saying, not the goodly lawyer here, I am saying, from listening to this as a layperson, somebody told us lies on Friday. But continue, sir.
I open your audience to questions. I hope that
you want them to call in. Before they call in, there was something that Mrs. Corbin pointed out to me, and I like to I like to address if we said anything that was not correct. And as you said today, it's moving parts because the bill itself is saying in terms of the independent monitoring team. Is it team or committee?
Commission.
I'm sorry. Commission. That it's the minister will appoint this and the minister appoint. But now it was said that later in the debate, the prime minister says now it would be the president. Do you have anything to say on that? It hasn't changed here because it is still in the bill that it is a minister, but now we're told it is now the president. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts. Yes, the prime minister did indicate that consideration would be given to amending that section. And the attorney general in his presentation also alluded that there may be some amendments to that section as well. Presently, however, the bill that is still on the Parliament's website that is heading to the Senate still has the sections that we are referring to here within the bill, because I went and I checked this afternoon to see if it may have been updated. So based on what the Prime Minister said and based on what is heading to the Senate, we will have to kind of be in a holding pattern to see exactly what amendments were or are going to be made, and then we can opine on those amendments.
Yes.
But yes, it is my understanding that there were indications both from the Attorney General and from the Prime Minister that there might be an amendment to that particular section. I will give one caution, however, though.
Yes, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Do not be lured into a false sense of security where this proposed amendment is concerned. This bill has several challenges in the bill. And I don't want that there's a scenario where, because the Prime Minister appears to capitulate on one issue, that we feel, okay, fine, she's capitulated, and we just stop the fight. Task number one, if you choose to accept it, 5(2)B must come out of this piece of legislation. The Jamaica Act, as similar as it is, does not contain a similar provision as 5(2)B. Trinidad does, Jamaica does not, and Guyana is neutral on it in that it does provide for a warrantless wiretapping, but under very narrow circumstances that are not as broad as what is in here. So I do not want us, often, politicians have a tendency to play the carrot and the stick game.
Yes.
So you dangle something in front of you and you get a little distracted. I want us to focus on what I think is the most egregious part of the bill, which is 5(2)B. And there are a lot of issues that surrounding the independent commission that can also be addressed. So I will reserve further judgment on that until I see the actual amendments that are going to go into the bill.
Yes. Well, we're asking people to call in. Call in to 236-7000. 236-7000. Guys, go ahead. You can make a WhatsApp call, preferably WhatsApp call. And I think we will be able to accommodate you. While we are waiting on those calls to come through, people are asking, so what happens if, for example, this president was there were the government that Dame Sandra Mason was okay. We have a call coming. Let me just take the call. I'm sorry. Caller, good night. Good night.
Good night.
Yes.
Hi,
welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yes. Good night to the gentleman. I forgot his name. Is it
Mr. Greenidge, Corey Greenidge?
Mr. Greenidge. Corey Greenidge. Good work thus far. What I want people to understand is some person in the chat is trying to more or less confuse the masses that language done by me has to be clear or unclear. I want people to understand that whether a person is academic or not, law is either from the realms of democracy or out of the raw bag, as the Bacons would say, of dictatorship origins. And whenever the dust is settled and the law that is proclaimed does not have what is called the spirit of the law, is not resonating as democratic, it will obviously be the opposite. It can be both. That said, I think what you must take into consideration is that democracy to dictatorship convergence in a country have sometimes a very expeditious, but it also has a push and pull mechanism of, because you would hear that she had mentioned that that term before. A lot of people took it for granted about push and pull mechanisms. And I would validate what I'm talking about, push and pull mechanism. Push and pull mechanism simply is when a person, well, in her situation, over years of understanding the epistemological and the epigenetic makeup of how people think, how they think, and how you can manipulate them, whether it be organized merriment or in fear-mongering. So I will summarize what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
In that what is going on in Barbados is essentially the manipulation of the naivety of the people, and that this austere way of trying to control and take advantage of privacy is just a manipulation of that. And until Bajans start to see beyond the veil that they are being taken advantage of or manipulated, people will still stay behind these political colors and stuff. I don't want to say much more. That's all I can say for now.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call. Any comment on that, Mr. Greenidge?
And I do want to remain generally out of the realm of the politics proper. Don't mind, the job of legislation is inherently in a political realm. So you can't really extricate yourself completely from the discussion of politics. The reason I'm doing that, however, because this primarily has to be an education exercise. It doesn't carry a color, because when those rights are going to be infringed, or when those when those communications are going to be intercepted, it's not going to have anything to do with the color.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter which color sits in the seat of government, one color can be the abuser today, and that same color could be the subject of abuse tomorrow or a year to come. So what I want to emphasize to the listeners, and you see, when you enter into the realm of politics, then people tend to retreat into their echo chambers and retreat into their core belief, I'm a B or I am a D. And somehow the functioning of the ears change
because of what they have.
It sounds like you are attacking their color. My job, there will be, I promise the viewers, there will be plenty time for all of the colors to draw their swords and to attack each other.
But not now.
Today, it is about the citizens understanding that this is about fundamental rights. Rights not only for yourselves.
Yeah, hold your thought there. There's a caller there, and our mechanism doesn't allow me to turn off. So, caller, welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, a blessed good night to everyone.
Good night.
I have no degree in legal terms, but I do have a certain degree of common sense. Now, I am looking at the beginning of this whole act. It is called, when I open the page, it's called Objective and Reason. Now, I don't understand what a reason is. A reason is a cause for an explanation or justification for an action or event. So we are looking at the reason for this wiretapping. And honestly, I do not see crime prevention as one of the reasons for this wiretapping I'm saying. It says this bill would, it would make provisions for the interception of communications. And I underline the last letter, communications. It did not say communication, communications. So to me, this is not only talking about written communication, but also verbal, because communication can be written or verbal. Mm-hmm. So to me, this bill is going way beyond what people might think it actually means. The acquisition and disclosure of data. This is going really far, relating to communications.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, as I said, I'm just having a degree of common sense when it comes to what this bill is actually saying. So I'm actually trying to figure out, because down at page 5, it says that this whole thing was enacted by the Parliament of Barbados in accordance with provisions of Section 49 of the Constitution as follows. Now, we are a republic, and as far as I know, we have not been given a republic constitution as yet. So what constitution are we referring to in order to enact this bill? My question in summarizing is this: is this to legally protect the government from the people? That is my question.
Oh, okay.
Is this bill to legally protect the government from the people? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, caller. Go ahead, Mr. Greenidge. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, certainly. So I'll start at the Constitution. Our Constitution still stands as the supreme law of the land. We did have a change into republicanism, and on the face of the Constitution, there were the necessary changes. For example, the most familiar one to everyone would be no longer having a governor general. Now you would have a president. So the Constitution itself is still operative. Can we have constitutional reform? Certainly. But the actual document is still very much alive and operative. When this bill refers to Section 49, the bill basically says that we understand, the bill is saying that we understand that there is going to be a derogation, as it says, or there's going to be a moving away from, or this bill allows the powers that be to restrict a right that is within the Constitution, and that is the right to privacy. So the bill in its upfront says this is not a derogation from the Constitution insofar as the purpose of the bill is in the national interest and is for the prevention of crime. And I just want to say, the criticisms of the bill we do not criticize, necessarily from my perspective, the need for common sense legislation to fight crime. Wiretapping, or as it's colloquially termed, or the interception of communication, is a tool that is given to law enforcement for the fighting and the prevention of crime. And as I said on Friday, it is needed. I do think that we should have wiretapping legislation. But in so doing, you must have a piece of legislation that has all of the guardrails and then some, because it does restrict a right from the individual. And the Attorney General said it on the floor of the House on Friday. He says, it is clear that the rights of the individual must at some point in time give way to the rights of the many, the rights of the nation. And that is how our democratic society works. That is how our laws work. But in so doing, we cannot now have a bill that seeks to do that, which is a good intent, which is good purpose, and then create it in such a way that it allows or it leaves a gaping loopholes that nefarious or bad actors, whether this year or the next, whether this administration or the next, have the opportunity to abuse that power. And that's why we're resisting this bill.
Yes. Thank you, sir. We have another caller. Caller, go right ahead. Good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Hello. Good night, Marcia.
Can you hear it? Can you hear Mr. Greenidge?
Yes, I can.
Yes, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear, sir.
Right. I have a question that I would like some guidance on. And Mr. Greenidge, thank you for taking your time to share with the citizens of Barbados on this important matter. In my estimation, Marcy, I know that you and your show would have done quite some work on what is the cyber crime bill.
Yes, sir.
And you have made sure that was brought to the attention. And to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure what is the status with that bill at this point in time. Was it passed in the House?
No. It is still
in a stalled position.
It is in a stalled position because the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, what they said was that they were offering technical assistance to make the bill, follow the human rights law, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But thanks for your education in that regard.
And it wasn't just a show. It wasn't just a show. It was
entering-
everybody. Yeah.
We are entering a very dangerous period with this present bill. Is, in my limited understanding, can I put it that this bill can be a forerunner or a tandem to cybercrime bill. And here is why I think it is important that what Mr. Greenidge is saying about that 5B2
5.2b.
is 5B. It's 5B.
Yes, go ahead.
5.2b.
Yes, we
5.2b,
understand.
I think it is.
5.2b,
Right.
yeah.
I wanted to find out who is an authorized officer. What is the description of an authorized officer? Because if we don't know who is an authorized officer, then isn't it possible that that individual can access your calls, your transmissions, whatever they are, electronically or otherwise, and by so doing, then proceed to get a warrant under the cybercrime bill and bring a matter against you in that regard? So should we not be looking at these two in tandem?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. And just listen. We're gonna turn off the call now, and then you just listen to the answer, okay? Just so that others can call. Thank you.
That's fine.
Yes.
If your producer can go to page 6.
Page 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Page 6, Dave. Thank you. I think he's getting that.
Sure. As that comes up, I'll answer the easier of the question from the caller. The
Yes.
authorized officer, and just want to remind everyone, and I want to bring it up on the screen so that
Yes.
I have evidence to what I'm speaking. The authorized officer is defined specifically in the bill as the Commissioner of Police and the Director General of the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency. Just those two functionaries.
Yes.
So can approach the court for a warrant, right? So you have there the authorized officer means the Commissioner of Police and the Director General of the Anti-Corruption and Anti-Terrorism Agency. With respect to the two bills in tandem, I am not as researched on the cybercrime bill, but understand how legislation works. This legislation is operative within its own four walls, right? To the extent that what is permitted by this act is permitted by this act. The warrants that are required in 5.2a are required under this act. So there's not a warrant that you can, there's no kind of cross-pollination of the operations of the act per se. So our agitation specifically, I know the cybercrime bill has been stalled, but this one is on its way through to the Senate. And we need to make sure that we can do what we can to stall this one as well.
Yeah, and actually it's on Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday. I mean, today's Sunday. And to think, as Ms. McLean was saying, that it was in the Gazette on the 7th.
Yes.
And
it's moving very quickly. Yes, it's moving very quickly.
It's the 7th, and today's the 10th, guys. And you're going to tell me in 3 days from here, by the 13th, that it could be passed and become, on its way to become law.
Correct. And I would hope, I would hope that all of the senators, especially the independent senators, would do their research, do their homework, even if they're not listening to our show. Several of those independent senators, I think at least 2 of them are lawyers themselves. And I would hope that they would be diligent enough not to cast their vote without having looked carefully at all the implications. Because before the call, I was making the point that this is about generations to come. This is about our children. This is about our children's children. This is not about red shirts and yellow shirts. This is about us as a people preserving something that has become dear to us, preserving a way of life. And that is a way. Listen, I saw, before I came onto your show, I saw a social media influencer, as it were, if I can name him as that, trying to tell people how to avoid being wiretapped by putting their phones in foil paper. And it's scary because I'm trying to think of myself, do I have to walk around with a sheet of foil paper to wrap my phone in so that it can't access its information? And if that is where our society is about to descend into, then we have serious problems.
To walk around with your phone in a foil paper. But even then, I mean, I think there is a law, there is a fine for that. Is that what they mean? That if you are, if they find that you are trying to, for them not to be able to intercept the communication, that there's a fine. I think I read somewhere in the bill. Is that what they're talking about, or that is too
No,
um,
I don't think they will be able to find you for foul paper on your phone.
for paper?
It is
Well,
a bit, it is a
let
bit.
me just remind everybody to call in. We do have some questions that are in the chat that I'm going to read as well. But while we get ready to read those questions, I want to say to everybody that this Saturday, we are going to hit the streets, guys. And that 52B has to go out. It has to listen. This bill needs to go back to the drawing board. All right, and that 52B has to come out of it. And so we are going to we're going to stage a protest march. Well, we're going to start as our usual route, Kensington, end up at Independence Square, and then the Sunday we will have a big roadside parliament. Hopefully, Mr. Greenidge could come again and speak to the public. Listen, we're going to keep doing this until it is removed. Let me tell you something. We are not going to stop. The same thing that we did with the cybercrime bill and more. I need you. I know you're busy typing away, but the typing that you really need to do tomorrow, Monday. Join me, people, in writing to all the senators tomorrow. Join me in writing to all the government senators, independent senators, the opposition senators. Write to everybody. Write to your MP. A lot of you like to type on Facebook, yeah, and on Instagram. And we're intelligent people. We're Barbadians. Write a letter. Write an email, even if it's not a letter with, letterhead and so on. Write an email and talk to them. You were educated tonight. Talk to them about Section 52B and that you want it out and that they're not to vote to pass this tomorrow. On Wednesday. So everybody get going. Please get going. Very, 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 very important. All right. Let's just read some of the questions here. I know that somebody was asking about explain a little bit about what Guyana did with their 52B. Can you explain a bit more on that?
Certainly. So the Guyana doesn't have a 52B per se, but it allows for the interception without a warrant by what they call the designated officer, or what we call.
Okay, caller, can you just excuse me, please, sir. Caller, turn off your device and turn off the device, please. Sir, can you just hold a bit and just let's hear this caller. Go right ahead, caller. Welcome and go right ahead. Sorry about that. But
blessings, Marguerite, gentleman is Corey.
Yes, Mr. Greenidge.
The disturbing thing about this bill, it's nothing different to the cybercrime bill. And you go through truth now, right? My advice about all Barbadians, don't care which party you're from. This is supposed to incriminate you or for people. Because when you recheck it, this bill don't draft for those people, because those people is going to still continue doing the white collar frame, etc. And still going to do what they have to do. And nothing will come out of it. But the also truth is like, this is supposed to imprison most of the population so they got more control over the population. So that's what we're getting on, or they say all the population. But this bill is very, very, very dangerous. And my question, I'm a member of the Democratic Party, so I want to know if I could message my senator, any of my senators, any present moment, like tonight, tomorrow morning, that the case maybe.
Yeah. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your call. Important call. And if you could just exit the call and then listen for the answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, and blessings to everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Greenidge.
The caller made an interesting contribution. What I would say is that the bill, and I'm in danger of repeating myself, but repetition sometimes is what we need.
Yes.
The bill has to be one that targets just what it says it does, and that is the criminal element in Barbados. And we know that there is a lot of criminality that is going on in Barbados, and it is resulting in young men dying in our streets at an alarming rate. So we are in favor, we are the cheerleaders of common sense legislation that fights crime, but you cannot, or you should not, package common sense legislation in a legislation that then leaves the rest of the citizens vulnerable. And the reality is, listen, in Trinidad, before they enacted their legislation in 2010, there was an exposure of wiretapping, that wiretap reporters. There are groups in our nation that are vulnerable to this type of activity. And you must have a bill that criminalizes that. Remember what the Attorney General says. If you do wiretapping that is not legal, you are susceptible to a fine on summary conviction of $500,000 or 7 years imprisonment or both. That's right. The bill should do that. But the Attorney General went on to say that the only legal way it can be done is by a wiretap. And there is this where the misleading comes along. That's not true. It can be done by 52B, where the functionaries, the two functionaries, they themselves can effect wiretapping. And that is where the vulnerability comes. So you have a bill that, yes, targets the criminal element. You go to the judge, you get a warrant, you present evidence. And then you have a bill also that gives a carte blanche, blank check to two functionaries, one of which is a political appointee, to be able to effect wiretapping. And there's limited reporting on one of those functionaries. And that is unacceptable. Yes. And I will say one further thing. The AG, the Attorney General, in his presentation also offered a binary choice, which is slightly disturbing. He's saying, listen, we are doing this in order to fight crime. You want crime, you want us to fight crime, and yet you want to come and criticize us. Sir, it is not a binary option. It is not one or the other. Do common sense legislation, but do it in a way that protects the citizens of Barbados. And if you don't, we have a right to want common sense legislation, and we also have a right to criticize you when you do not do it in the way that it should be done. It is not a binary choice. So to the contribution of the caller, it is not really about class or creed. One government can be in today and another tomorrow. All citizens are susceptible. And you do not know who is listening and why. Yes, it is supposed to be for criminal behavior. But if you have a functionary, or if you have a government or a minister that is prone to abuse of power, that is where the problem comes. So this is not about impugning any particular minister or any particular person in power or any particular functionary. But the bill itself should insulate the office to the extent that if there is a functionary or minister that is prone to abuse, that functionary or minister does not have the opportunity to abuse the rights of the citizens.
Yes. Wow. Well said. Very well said, Mr. Greenidge. Can you quickly go over the Guyana?
Yes.
Right. And then we will. I have a question via WhatsApp written to me that we read. But go right ahead, sir.
Certainly. I was saying that the Guyana legislation doesn't have specifically a clause that is akin to the 52B, but it does allow for interception without a warrant under very, very narrow circumstances, that is on the national emergency situation or a situation where, as it reads, is impractical due to urgency. So there's still an element that you can have a warrantless interception, but the act terms it either national emergency or impractical due to urgency. So I imagine you may have a situation where maybe in the dead of the night, you know something's happening right away now, and you just simply don't have the time to go to the judge. This is kind of the carve out. From my perspective, I still think that this carve out may leave a loophole, but it is a little more narrow than our 5.2b compared to Trinidad, which has 6.2b in their case, which is verbatim the exact same provision as our 5.2b, which opens it up. And just to remind the listeners, Jamaica has taken it out altogether. It does not exist in the Jamaica legislation. So it is not a big ask for us to say we are not happy with 5.2b. 5.2b
Exactly.
must come out.
Exactly. Someone is asking here: Are the Commissioner of Police and the Director General qualified to manage the equipment? Will they not need IT experts to manage the tapping? So, how many people exactly will be needed to handle the information? Is this additional work for these two authorized persons? If they're managing 50 suspected cases, who will be listening in to each and every call or communication besides the two authorized persons? How will the information be stored? How long will the person's private communication be kept, especially for those to whom there is no case to answer?
So those are a lot of questions in one, but very good questions, and I'll try to see if I can tackle them as a go. The way the functionaries work in the legislation is that they are heads of organizations. So once an application for a warrant comes to the court, they will be the named applicant to the court. Similar, like if you were to bring an action against the state, chances are the named respondent would be the Attorney General. In their office as a functionary, they are the ones that have to come to the court in order to make the application. But as you can appreciate, the Commissioner of Police is the presiding functionary over the Barbados Police Service. So there will be operatives within the Barbados Police Service that would operate the equipment, that would be part of I imagine, some kind of information technology apparatus that will store the information. And so it's not to say that the Commissioner of Police has to do everything. Beg your pardon, I think I just lost light in my office. There we go. It's not to say that the Commissioner of Police is going to do everything, but he is the functionary that is responsible. Now, the Act does provide, and I may not be able to go into all of the details, but the Act itself does provide for how the information is stored. The Act does provide for very stringent measures as it relates to confidentiality. And the Act does provide that if the information that is gathered is no longer in pursuit of a criminal matter, that judge will put an order for that information to be destroyed. Even information, as the Attorney General pointed out on the floor, even if there's information that is collected that is tangential to the actual criminal activity. So, for example, if criminal John Brown, there is a warrant for the Commissioner of Police to intercept his communication, and he calls his plumber and say, listen, my sink is leaking. Or if he makes a call and orders food from Shafet. I'm just saying that there will be tangential communications information that may be gathered, and the Act does provide for how that information is either stored or destroyed. In terms of the length of time that the information is held, now this is one of the challenges that I also have with the Act. We've not gotten to this, and I've continuously said there are a lot of challenges, and I do not want to overwhelm your listeners with too much information. But the Act, in the realm of the warrant, allows for a 120-day initial period for the warrant to be granted.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is that time is too long. The Attorney General, on his feet in the House of Assembly, made reference to the 120 days and made reference to the fact that we have to understand that crime does not happen how you see it on TV, where within an hour you have a crime, you have an arrest, you have a court case, you have a conviction, and a man goes to jail, and there's a hero within an hour of a television show. He's absolutely correct. Crime prevention does not happen in that vacuum. However, if you are granted a warrant, my personal opinion is that warrant should, in initial stages, be for 30 days. You want to restrict that level of intrusive nature. And again, if after 30 days and you have not gathered the information that you need, you should have to go back to that judge to present evidence as to why you should continue. I do think 120 days is too long, and I think it is one of the amendments that should be looked at. And even if you get to that 120 days, 120 days is 4 months. If you get to that end of that 4 months, the Commissioner of Police could come back from another extension of an additional 4 months. So you can have an interception of communication that is spanning the breadth of 8 months of a person's life, and you can imagine the amount of telephone calls, the amount of WhatsApp messages that can transpire within a month. So, I mean, some of us are in WhatsApp groups, and when we put on our phone at night, we wake up in the morning, there are 900 messages. So you understand the volume of information gathering that could happen within a 4 or 8 month period. So I do believe that those periods should be revisited, and the revisiting of those periods, by my own opinion, this is my personal opinion, keeps the engagement of the judiciary in the process. Yes, there are progress reports that the judge can order, but I believe it engaged to the extent that if you get up to a month or 60 days, 2 months, and you have not gathered the information for criminal activity, you should have to come back to the judge and explain why and present further evidence as to why you should continue to be able to intercept communications. Again, it is for the protection of the rights of our citizens. And believe it or not, even the citizens that may be suspected of criminal activity, because the way our judicial system works is that you are innocent until you're proven guilty.
Exactly.
And the rights still extend even if you are suspected of criminal activity. It requires very stringent guardian.
Yes. Yes. Let me just get a caller. Good night. Good night, caller. Yes, good night, caller. If you could turn down your device because you're listening to us. Let me just get a caller. Good night. Good night, caller. Yes, good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. I'm going to wait until you've turned down the device, okay? You're on. So we want to get your question. Yes, good night. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. I'm going to wait until you turn down the device, okay? You're on. So we want. Oh, I think caller, don't give up. When you call, just turn down your device when you call, okay? So that we don't have the feedback. We want to hear from you. There was a question that was on the screen, and I'm going to try to. It was from a pilgrim. Okay. And I think you probably answered this already. When the bill refers to the Commissioner of Police, can the Commissioner deputize against any of his line officers to perform that function, or is it restricted solely to the COP? I think you answered that.
Yeah, so just again, for Mr. Pilgrim who asked the question, the Commissioner of Police is the presiding officer. He's the most senior officer within the police service. He is the named applicant in a warrant, but of course he has an entire department that will be part of his function, part of the apparatus of what the police service does, and there will be specific persons in there that would carry out the different jobs. But the Act does provide for very strict confidentiality requirements, strict requirements for the storage of information, and also for the destruction of that information.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Rosalind Corbin, she's asking, how will they determine what information from the communication will be relevant and what will be discarded? The AG said only relevant information will be retained.
That is indeed true. So once you've gone to get a warrant and you gathered your information and you are proceeding with criminal proceedings, only the information that's relevant to the criminal proceedings, that information is what is retained.
Okay, yes, we have a little issue here. Okay, good night, caller. Good night, caller. Could you turn the device off? Yes. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Do you have a question? Good night, caller. They're having a challenge there. They're having a challenge. So all right. Yes. Just finish what you were saying. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That the relevant information that is necessary in terms of evidence for that criminal proceedings, that is what should be retained. any tangential or any peripheral information or evidence or any communication that's gathered, that should be destroyed. And the act does provide for that. And again, it provides for very clear guidelines with respect to confidentiality and how that information is to be handled. One would have to repose into that function, the trust that what they're saying is true is actually what is true. And that is where the independent commissioner, the independent monitoring commission comes in, because once they receive the report from the judge, the final report, once they receive the report, the commission then has the purview to determine what is appropriate, what's not appropriate, and what falls within the parameters of the act. Anything that falls outside of the parameters of the act, it does not. The commission then is able to act in order to make sure that that is done appropriately. I want to point out one thing. I think I said it on Friday night. There is a provision in the act that exempts the two functionaries from any liability. So there is personal immunity to the two functionaries within the act. And I think that's something that we have to be aware of as well, that this personal immunity exists. Why I raise that is because even though the Independent Monitoring Commission can investigate, if the Independent Monitoring Commission finds any infringements of the act only provides that they can serve notice to the Commissioner of Police or serve notice to the Director General that there is a breach of the act. That's all it seems that that's all the teeth that the act gives them. It really does not allow for criminal proceedings to emanate from the Commission. And I think that's something we also need to consider, because the Commission should in fact be able to refer a breach of the act that cannot be cured, refer that to the Director of Public Prosecutions for his assessment as to if somebody has breached the act and in fact somebody is doing wiretapping illegally. But again, that's a lot of the further weeds within the legislation. And I think we can probably, as you have up on your screen, I think the key thing for our viewers and our listeners is to understand hashtag 52B. 52B has to go. 52B represents warrantless wiretapping. And I think that's the first port of call in terms of our protests.
Yeah, this is what you see on the screen, guys. It is a call to action. We would like for you to copy this hashtag, these two hashtags, and to put it up on your Instagram, to put it on your Facebook, all of your social media. Send this all across Barbados. And people ask you, what is that? What is it? Hashtag 52B, and you let them know this is what you want out of this piece of legislation, this bill. Okay, and for short, we call it the wiretapping bill, but we understand just so that people can understand what it is, right? But really, on a serious note, this is very, very, very serious, and probably it could be probably why it was not discussed or debated or brought in the House on Friday, because it is so serious. All right, and so this is why we have it on the screen. Please, capture this. Let me move this question. Somebody's asking where they can get a copy of the bill. So you can take a screenshot of this, guys. Let me let you get it quickly and get that, and you can put it up, or you can create your own and put it up. All right. Make sure you got 52B and not 5B2. All right. Okay. But where can people get a copy of the bill, Mr. Greenidge?
You can go on to the Parliament website. It's the BarbadosParliament.com, and if you strike bills, it's currently before the Senate. So there's a button there, bills before the Senate. There's a downloadable PDF version of the bill that you can have. So you can go on to BarbadosParliament.com, and if you hit the button bills before the Senate, it will come up as one of the bills before the Senate. It's the last one on the list, the Interception of Communications Bill 2025, and there's a downloadable PDF version once you hit the link.
Yes, the Interception of Communications Bill. Now, I want to ask, can we go under, is there a space underneath it that we can go to register our thoughts on the bill? Is there like you could comment?
Yes, I believe you can comment on the bill on the
You can
website.
comment on the bill there as well. So we probably just need to have, we're going to create a document or a little, just something to send out with all the ways that you can protest this bill. All right, we're going to put it all together for you. You could go right there on the website and you can make a comment and tell them about 52B. Tell them about it. Warrantless wiretapping. We don't want that in our bill. All right, you can go and write and type that in as well. Okay. Somebody is asking here, if they make amendments, does it need to go back to the House?
Yes, it would need to go back to the House if they make amendments to the bill for them to vote on the amendments to the bill before it goes back.
But the Prime Minister is saying that she stood up and said, well, they don't have to, the minister doesn't have to be that independent monitor or put that the team together. I keep saying committee, but it's not committee. It
Commission,
is
yes. The
commission.
independent
The independent monitoring commission together, the 3-member team. The president could do it, but wouldn't it have to, isn't that an amendment to the bill?
Yes, they would need, the bill right now is in the form of a bill. So they need to be able to properly amend the bill and send it back to the floor of the House for debate to the amendments to the bill. Remove 52B and a lot of other amendments that need to be made before it goes back to the Senate. The Senate itself can send the bill back to the House as well. Yes.
Right, and that's what. So we have 2 minutes left, Mr. Greenidge, and I just want to thank you. I want to thank Mr. Ralph Thorne for on this particular issue, because I'm sure you've probably spoken on other things publicly, but on this issue, I want to thank him for gifting you to the public. He gave you a platform for you to be able to speak and be able to spot that you had something. So Mr. Ralph Thorne, again, the leader of the opposition, I want to commend him for the work that he's doing, and that through the DLP TV, that which is on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 o'clock. People can tune in, because I know that I'm sure they will be continuing this discussion there probably tomorrow night. I don't know their programming, but people can tune in to the DLP TV on Tuesday at 7. And once again, thank you to Mr. Ralph Thorne for having the foresight and the insight to be able to invite you on that program so that you were able to present. But that out of the way, I want to what's your final call to action to Barbadians? What do you want to say? Let me just feature you. So talk straight to Barbadians tonight before we close.
My call to Barbadians, as I did on the DLP TV show, I want you to hold your heads up and pay attention. Pay attention, not because the politicians are running around with hyperbole or because the politicians are making noise and you don't want to hear politicians. When you walk around the country, there's a general distrust that comes out of the mouth of politicians. Be that as it may, this is a piece of legislation that will affect every single citizen in Barbados. And we are often described as kind of a laid-back people. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have a functioning democracy, we have a functioning economy, and we have a society that has basked in the glow of its freedoms and basked in the glow of the rights of the individual for many years, for many decades, for centuries now. But we cannot take those freedoms and we cannot take those rights for granted. And we cannot turn a blind eye to when those freedoms and when those rights are under threat. Hold your heads up. Do your research. Go download the bill. Every one of you must know a lawyer. Pick up the phone. Call an attorney at law. Ask for their opinion. Is Mr. Greenidge talking nonsense? Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Even drop that bill into some kind of artificial intelligence program and ask the question, is there warrantless interception? We are in the age of artificial intelligence, AI. Do your research. And when you have come up with your answer, speak truth to power. Ensure that your voices are heard. Attend on to Parliament. Go onto the website, make your comments. have your discussions when you get in your gatherings, in your family gatherings, when you're gathering at your at the Pudding South depot to collect your Saturday meal, wherever you go, wherever you line, wherever you hang out, make your voice known. Ask your friends, let them know this thing is happening and what we can do about it. We enjoy our freedoms and we want to continue to enjoy our freedoms. Let your voices be heard. I want to thank Ms. Weeks for having me on the show. It is a very good platform in order for us to be able to educate the people. I used to tutor at the university at one point in time. I enjoy educating then students about the law and certainly trying to bring it down to a manageable and understanding way to the public and to the citizens of Barbados. So I thank you for allowing me to do that on your platform. It certainly has been a pleasure. I am available if there's any further consultation to join you even in public because I do feel personally very passionate about this issue. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I want to hasten to say, while we thank you, I want to thank Mr. Andrew Pilgrim is the first name.
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Pilgrim, because I'm told that you put out a post today and he was saying to you, create more videos. So if one would think that if you were speaking nonsense, Mr. Andrew Pilgrim, and all, other lawyers would be saying, we would be telling you to put out more videos. And he did it publicly. So while he's not on the show, I still want to commend Attorney Andrew Pilgrim for his comments online about what you're doing and the education that the people of Barbados are receiving, and to make a call for more lawyers to come out to speak to us at the Roadside Parliament. We should have a state full of lawyers defending the people of Barbados. I would love, Mr. GREENIDGE, to come with a whole set of them. From whatever party. We're not about any colors here. I love your approach. We should be addressed by lawyers. I believe that, and let them stand up for us. And I want to tell people this, guys. Remember that we went to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and today, Sunday, I've started that process of sharing with them the information, Mr. GREENIDGE. I actually did it. The lawyer who represented us, I've sent it to him already. We're going to have talks in the week. We're not sitting down. We don't have time. We just don't have time. We're going to hit the road on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. That's our time. And our place is Kensington. We're going to walk that road. We're going to walk that road anytime we're going to get out there in the heart of Bridgetown. Walk, and we're going to Independence Square. Roadside Parliament is going to be the next day, the Sunday at 3 o'clock. That venue is to be announced. We're going to try to do Independence Square to just kind of keep everything one place in the center. So we're going to tell you more about that. But what you can do is to write your senators, write your MP, write your senators and write your MP. Very, very important. Get the hashtag put up on your social media. This is work time. This Sunday, we only have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday they go. We need to even find out. I don't know if anybody can tell me. Can we go inside the Senate chambers? Is there any space for people? I forgot to ask Ms. McLean and former Glenn Murray about that. Can we actually go into the Senate as people actually went to Parliament? Can we go in and sit? Is there a gallery? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But we need to make sure that we are doing the part that we need to do. Those of you who can pray and fast. Don't laugh at that. Don't laugh at that. That is powerful. Do what you can do, but do something. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you so much, Mr. GREENIDGE. And we're going to see everybody else again on Monday. Hopefully, the young people are going to come on here and talk about this bill. I want the influencers to come on here and to talk about this bill. All right? God bless you. Bye-bye, everyone.
The way things going in this country is sickening and crazy. Seems like this paradise is lost. The youth gets a trigger happy, always aggressive and angry. Seems like the goodness at all cost. A friend of me said to me, boy, don't make it easy. Do the right thing, don't make it easy. So I decided to write this song. I get pusher all the round. So when I done, I could win this crown. Many people talking about jumping, and all you do in this party, and that is a loss. Crystal girl, you lost. When gunshots got the people scattering, and you want me to go up gathering, that's a loss. Joking, that's a loss. 15 and 16-year-olds in the mist, and you want me to get in this, that is a loss. Biggie, that's a loss. But don't get it twisted, that the society should be resisted. As a few, I go in for crown and country. Don't get it twisted. I tell you into dread, and tonight things they look too good on the web, but all I keep hearing is walk, anyone, we lost, anyone, we lost, anyone, walk. Why this silent was calm and friendly, but in of his natural beauty is being overrun by thugs. Some them name they can't even write it. Them do illiterate. So much money, guns and drugs. Well, tonight I am telling you, this is exactly what I can do. I am saying, do the things come true? Well, I tell everyone to see that all them leaders both here cannot do all the things that they expect me to see. When murderers are always running, getting bail and then coming back is a loss. What? You think that's a loss? When you treat the prison is always best, and they're doing their foolishness, that's a loss. Hey, you're lost. When you say that you're coming out at night, you can't manage with them down gunfight, that's a loss. Them truth, that's a loss. So don't get it twisted. In this society, should be resisted. Mr. Big Man, do something for we. Don't get it twisted. As I drop tonight, I am coming out here, right now I'm gonna fight, because all I'm hearing is we lost, we lost, we lost, why, oh gosh, if you love Barbados, let me see you put your hands in the air, come on. So in this strong and this country, have to work feverishly. Can't be silent, blind, or frightened. I know some they sing about me, and they do it empty. Them trying to do peacock. Well, I telling them don't try it, because them can't manage it. Ian Webster, you give me a fit. When I done with them tonight, them will see why you just can't fight. I am coming out here to out of all of them light. Somebody please call 911. It seems as though the cat got hit out is a loss. Webster, boy, you lost. Last year he fussy, he was number 2. This year I see he's singing it too. That's a loss. So will you lost. Let me get down to brass that. Don't waste your breath. You know me, I ain't got no time for that. That's a loss. So come, that's a loss. I'm not sure. Ronnie, listen to me. NCF that and change, that is a loss. Carol is a loss. I realize that they want to sing about me. Tell them go ahead, they can't touch it, see? Tell them you're lost. He said he don't want the golden crown. He's singing tonight. Something wrong, that's a loss. Billboard, you're lost. How is it that you expect to come and mess? All you're singing be foolishness, that's a loss. Your boy, that's a loss. I am telling you right here, so tonight, classic way to spot that light is a loss. I say that's a loss. Hey, don't get it twisted. I tell society. I know we can do this one for you, see. Oh, tonight I'm done. And I know for sure I come back to Teddy Crumb. Cause all I'm hearing is we lost. We lost. You lost. We lost.